call this public meeting of the Eagle Mountain Saginaw Independent School District to order. Let the record show that a quorum of board members is present and that this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. Welcome everyone to our meeting for the month of September. With the law change comes a change in the order of our agenda. So the first thing we're going to have is oral presentations. Anybody wishing to address the board? And we did have a speaker sign up to speak today. A few rules of order. Thank you for coming to speak to us about the public comment portion of the meeting. According to board policy, you have 5 minutes to speak. We'll have our board secretary, Donna Webb. She's going to keep the time, and she will hold up time cards showing the time you have remaining. If the item is not on the board agenda, the board may not ask or answer questions or make any comment regarding what is said. Also, please note that to comply with FERPA laws on student privacy, you may not mention the student by name. Additionally, according to board policy, you may not make derogatory comments about any individual staff member, either by name or title. If you need to file a complaint, you may do this through our formal grievance process outlined in board policy. So having said that, we have Linda Cunningham. Welcome, Linda.
Hi. Good evening. My name is Linda Cunningham, and I live at 5700 Downs Drive, and I have 4 children who attend EMS ISD. I would like to speak to you tonight regarding the procedures for electing members of the Board of Directors for the Tarrant Appraisal District. As you know, Board of Directors are elected by the various taxing entities within the county. The larger jurisdictions have larger numbers of votes than the smaller jurisdictions, similar to the Electoral College vote allocation by size of state and presidential elections. Each taxing jurisdiction can cast all of their allocated votes to one candidate or spread them around to 2 or more candidates. However, the current system of electing directors has become antiquated and is failing to meet the needs of the smaller entities. Smaller taxing units have limited opportunity for growth, putting them at a disadvantage under the property code and limiting their future. Another failing aspect of the current election process is the larger taxing units have multiple meetings per month and are able to simply wait to cast their votes after the smaller taxing units, thus giving them an advantage to gain representation in electing their candidates. The election process is currently open for 6 full weeks near the end of the end of each odd-numbered year. The rules allow any jurisdiction to propose a change to the voting procedure, and the City of Colleyville has done just that. On August 20th of this year, the City Council adopted Resolution R-19-4412, which proposes that the voting period be shortened to 1 week in December, during the taxing unit's regularly scheduled meeting during that week. If the jurisdiction does not have a regularly scheduled meeting that week, they would be required to call a special meeting for this purpose. A copy of this resolution has been provided to each one of you. The procedural change offered within this resolution will allow candidates to be vetted by all taxing units equally and by allowing 5 weeks prior to the vote. Will give the smaller taxing units time to examine or invite each candidate and choose who will best represent them. Colleyville will file their resolution with the Chief Appraiser's office soon, and he will be required to send the resolution to all taxing jurisdictions in the county over the next few weeks for a vote. If 50 taxing units vote yes, then the procedure change will take effect for this year's election. I would urge you to consider adopting a similar resolution for EMS ISD, or at least consider supporting the Colleyville resolution when it comes to you for a vote in the coming weeks. This procedural change will make for a more equitable election of the TAD Board of Directors, increase impartiality and transparency, and provide a better chance for smaller jurisdictions to be represented in the selection of this important board. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. That was what was passed out before she spoke, so you have it all in place. With the board permission, we're going to move report B down to later in the meeting so we can move up to the BLKs here. We want to make sure we leave plenty of time for other items. So the next item is, without objection, seeing none, the next item then is the Career and Technology Report. Welcome, Dana.
Good evening. President Newcomb, board members, Dr. Chadwell, leadership team, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to come and tell you what we've been doing in CTE, what we're doing, some things we're doing this year, what we did last year, some of our accomplishments and our goals. In CTE, everything we do, we drive towards our department mission, which of course aligns to the district's mission of fostering a culture of excellence, instilling a passion for a lifetime of continuous achievement in the high demand, highly skilled occupations of tomorrow's global economy, preparing kids to be ready for their future. Our beliefs, we have 4. We want to integrate education with the workplace, engage students in their educational journey, make them part of the decision-making process, foster a commitment to post-secondary education, whatever that looks like for that student. We just want them to know that graduation is just the beginning. Prepare students to create their future in tomorrow's highly skilled, competitive workforce. Give them the power to problem solve, to dream, and to make plans to achieve their dreams and passions. In a few words, to make them college, career, and life ready. Our enrollment for this year, we wanted to give you some numbers. Our middle school enrollment is at 861, and now these are numbers for strictly 8th graders taking high school credit courses. So we have 861 8th graders taking high school credit this year, and the really exciting thing about that is that this is the first year we will actually be able to receive funding for those students. So we're very excited because we'll be able to take that money and turn that back into those teachers. We've had some we have issues in the past where the state didn't allow us to fund those classes, and so we used federal funds to do that. But now we'll be getting some state funds and be able to give them some more equipment and some more supplies and help them out with their needs. Our high school enrollment this year stands at 6,569 kids, a lot. Basically, about every student in the high school is taking a CTE class. This basically is what this is saying. So very active in our classes, very full enrollments, and kids making great decisions. And then at the HCTC, we're at 1,157. This is an unduplicated account. This is strictly one child, how many students we have one time. We have some duplicated because we have students who take multiple classes with us, but this is the number of students we see every day. Our accomplishments for last year, very excited. We had over 1,000 certifications earned by our students. All sorts of, including American Welding Society, CompT and Infotech, 911 certification. So you name it, we've done it, they've done it. And so very excited for them. 425 of those were able to be reported either at the state or federal level. Just because we didn't report them or they weren't reported doesn't mean they are not important. We strictly go by the list that were provided by those 2 entities. But everything that we do, we feel adds value, and that's the most important part. We're not going to just give a certificate to give a certificate. We want that certificate to make the student better. We had an 89.7 passing rate on first-time certifications. That's down a little bit. We've put some things in place to get that back up again. We were just about 93% last year. So we've put some things in place, working with our teachers, putting some benchmarks into place to make sure our students are completely prepared before they step into that first certification exam. The students who did not pass them the first time, that number actually went up to about 96 on the second go around. So they were successful on the second time around. As you saw, we had 3 NASA Space Settlement Champions this year. We sent 3 students. That's the most we've ever sent. This is our 5th consecutive year to do that. I can't take credit for that. That's Rick Griffith and his amazing kids, but we're very excited. It was really fun because we had one that made it, and then they called us back and said, we want some more of your kids because we know the reputation you have and how you prepare them. And so we received 2 more invitations, so we were very excited about that. Skills USA, we sent 11 students to nationals. We had a silver medalist with Ferner Moreno in CNC technician. Ferner is actually a freshman at A&M. He was accepted into the honors engineering program. So he's, yes, I think we have about 5 in the honors engineering program right now. So really excited for him. DECA state and national competitors, that's our marketing program. Of course, you all met Maddie Carter, our FCCLA state and national competitor, who also received yes. An application, and she's already filled it out. Yes. So,
I need that.
She'll be back. Let me just say, she's phenomenal. She is again this year with us in a practicum program at a campus working with elementary students, so we're thrilled to have her. And we have a great many more students coming in behind her as well. TPSA, that's our Texas Protective Student Association. That is our law enforcement students. We had regional and state competitors. We sent about 22 kids to state this year. And that competition only goes to the state level, so we felt really proud of what they did. And then, of course, our HOSA, Health Occupations, again, state and national competitors. Our kids are phenomenal. They are extraordinarily talented, and they represent this district with pride, and they achieve great things. And so I'm so excited for what they do and how they represent all of us. Last year was a banner year. We stepped back into FFA leadership competitions, and we haven't done that for many, many years. And Laura Brandis and Clay Bailey, Brian Maynard and Chris Tondre and Brad Merck were phenomenal in leading those students into those leadership activities. They did really well. They got into district and into area, and they told me they were going to state this year, and so I better put some money back. So I am going to be doing that. We had over $71,000 in total proceeds from the Tarrant County Junior Livestock Show, up from $56,000 the year before. We had many more animals and obviously many more supportive buyers as well, but so proud for those students. We finally did it. After many years, TCC and EMS ISD were able to come together, and we are now offering dual credit through our HCTC programs in welding, automotive, IT, and AV. We have 74, it came at the end of May, I will not lie, and it was a rush to get it done, but we did it. We have 74 students who are participating in dual credit through these programs. They align to an associate's degree at Tarrant County College and then on to a 4-year degree at a state institution. So they've already taken those steps to move on past when they leave us. And so we are thrilled to have that partnership with Tarrant County College. And then we added some ag endorsements. What was one of our goals, and we achieved it. We added one in horticulture and advanced animal science. The horticulture takes place at Tarrant County College, and the advanced animal science vet med, not vet tech, but vet med, takes place at the HCTC. Our goals continue, this one never changes for us, is to increase those challenges on industry recognized certifications and licensures, not just because it's on the accountability, not just because it counts towards A through F, because it's the right thing to do for our kids, to give them an opportunity to move on, to use that as a way either to get into the industry or to work their way through college and then enter into that industry. So doing that and making sure we increase those opportunities, increase our passing rate. We're never good enough. We're never high enough. We always want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to help those kids pass. Implement TEA program of study changes. You may have heard some of that, or you may be hearing some of that that's coming. TEA, specifically the CTE department, is making changes in how we handle course selection and course moving from the freshman, sophomore, junior, into senior level. And so we'll be implementing those changes. Dr. Chadwell, Dr. Parker, and Dr. Barnes and I are working together on that as we go through that. Senior year practicums. We implemented and hired a practicum specialist. Casey Conroy is now part of the CTE team. She's hit the ground running. We've already had meetings with some local companies, local industries, some all the way out down the 820 corridor, for people to partner with us to hire our students as seniors. Now, practicums are different. You have to complete a pathway. You have to complete a program of study. And then your senior capstone project or your capstone class is to get a job and work in that industry. So you get all the high-level training, and then you get to go apply it as a senior. And so we'll be implementing those practicums in auto, culinary, IT, and then we'll be adding some more in the 21-22 school year. But we are excited. We will be implementing dual credit in culinary. That's our next go into. We think there's a lot of opportunity with TCC, specifically if they may be moving their culinary program a little closer. I didn't say that very loud, but there's some opportunity to work with them. We want to continue to increase technical dual credit. 74 is great, but we would like to see every student possible taking these opportunities. If this is something they want to do for a living, let's get you on that path to a post-secondary education, moving you forward. Let's start getting you credits in as a junior, and let's make sure you're taking your dual credit core content as well. Let's marry the technical and the academic together. I took a page from Sean Bell's presentation to save you time and to appreciate all the time that you're here, and I know that you've been gone a couple of days as well. And so this is just a quick kind of go through of some of the things that we've done this year, our kids participating in different activities, just to say thank you. Thank you for your support. Thank you for understanding that all kids matter, whether they are in athletics or fine arts or CTE or academics or whatever it is that drives them. Thank you for supporting all of them. Can I answer any questions?
Thank you, Dana. We appreciate the efforts over there at our Technology and Career Center, and we know that the efforts there have been rewarded not only by the students that have won awards, but just the students that get out of there with an education and a chance to go to work. So we
Thank you.
appreciate all y'all do there.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, next is first part of an operations report. I believe Dwayne Jones, you're going to lead us off on this tonight.
Yes, sir. Let's see if we got the, okay. All right, there you go. All right, Mr. Newcomb, board members, Dr. Chadwell, I will be giving the report tonight for all the different projects that we have going on throughout the district. We'll start off first with the Copper Creek Elementary School. If you haven't been out there in a while, we've made quite a bit of progress vertically. So all of these pictures are a little over a week old, so they may be a little bit behind as far as what's out there today. But these are fairly recent. So what you're looking at here is just it's the north view of the pickup and drop-off area. And if you haven't made it out there, or if you have, or if you've seen a full aerial, I think Mr. Welch has said before, there's quite a bit of paved drive out there. So we're trying to do our best as a partner to the community to try and pull cars off the streets. We've got a lot of staging area here, so that we're going to try and keep as many out of the neighborhood as possible. So that shows this. We've got a lot of concrete out there. Bottom picture is just it's a view of the first floor kindergarten wing. Here's just some more pictures. The top one is just the view of the second grade hallway. That's the ICF insulated concrete forms that we're using. Part of the building is ICF, part of the building is CMU wall, just the old style cinder block wall. The picture on the right is the elevator shaft, and then the bottom is just the hallway connecting the cafeteria and the gymnasium. This is the south view of, again, the drop-off and pickup area. So you can see, as I was talking, there's quite a bit of concrete, and all that is basically on our property. None of that is out into the neighborhood. So this is the overview just of the gym and the cafeteria areas. The cafeteria is on the left, where the steel beams are going in, and then the gymnasium will be in that open area that's on the bottom right of the screen. As I said a minute ago, here's the steel in the cafeteria, and the hallway is in progress. Plumbing in the kitchen, the guys are stubbing up, and then the steel and that's the inside view, standing inside the cafeteria. That will be the decking and the steel in the cafeteria. That's it for Creek View. Do you have any questions about that before I go on to the next? Okay. This is Creekview, Highland, and Gilliland renovations projects. This is a picture of the front of Creekview Middle School, all the different landscaping that was put in. Again, if you can make it by there as you come over that hill at Creekview, it's a totally different look. It's really pretty. These projects are for the most part, this project is for the most part I'd say 98% complete. We're really at punch items. There's a few items that we will need to complete, probably over like Thanksgiving break, just because what we need to do, it's very difficult to get in there and have the guys clean up and make it safe for the next morning, and then come back out and mess it up again and go back. So there's a couple things that we're probably going to wait until Thanksgiving to get those completed. But for the most part, it's both Creekview, Highland, and then of course Yieldland's been done, but they're operational, and like I said, they're at least 98% complete. This is the front of Highland. Again, landscaping. We put in these large rock benches, just for aesthetics as well as for students to be able to sit on and talk and hang out. The next project we have is the Bryson, Eagle Mountain, Elkins, and then the Ballsville band parking lot. This was done with ICI Construction. This is a picture of the new serving line at Bryson, with the pull-out serving line and then the folding closing doors. A picture of the new gymnasium at Bryson. Top picture is the first day with students. The gym looks great. How bright it is, and just the colors, and the bottom picture is just where we brought in that natural light. If you'd been there before, there were some areas of Bryson that were kind of dark. I think this just really lightens it up and makes it much more inviting and appealing. Of course, natural light is always a positive. The lights were installed at the band parking lot. Of course, we had the stripes were in before school started, and then the lights followed. It definitely lights up the area well. If anybody needed a land, they probably could on this parking lot. It's pretty bright. I think for the most part, everybody's very pleased with how that turned out, and so we're working still on the high school, on the turf projects. Obviously, the stadium and the auxiliary fields are both complete. Softball is done. Bottom two pictures, but the logo, for me personally, I love the logo on the stadium field, but I guess in a smaller area, when you see that logo in the softball field, it just pops. It really stands out well. So they're for the most part done with the softball field, and they're putting the carpet down on the baseball field now. So they're not quite done with all the carpet, but once they get that in, then they'll start putting the geo or the coconut cork husk in. The rest of the projects that we've got going, security upgrades across 18 campuses, that's still ongoing. We're working with the general contractor now to try and figure out a recovery plan. They're not quite where we would like them to be, so we're working with them to see about how we get to the finish line. So we're continuing to work through that. Tennis shade structures and Watson High School, those are both done with the same subcontractor, and we've met on site with them. I know those have been kind of ongoing for a while, but we have met finally on site with them to go over the project, and the parts are ordered. It's just now it's a matter of placement. We've got some challenges at both as far as with tennis to make sure with the cabling and whatnot, we have to identify where the post tension cables are before we go drilling onto that. And then Watson, we had a couple of things that we needed to move as far as irrigation and whatnot. Central office, we're continuing to do design development. Those meetings are still going on. And so Marine Creek, obviously they're in. We're still having punch items as they're identified from staff or principal. As those things come up, then we're just contacting the general contractor, and they're getting those fixed or resolved as quickly as possible. Last project that we're working on is the Ballsville High School Athletics. We're still on design development in that as well. We also have a presentation for you tonight. We've got Lisa Vardaman and Bryce McCarthy and Lauren Brown from VLK Architects. And I'm going to have Lisa come up, and she's going to go over a full presentation to kind of give you some more insight into what this project is all about. For all the other projects, are there any questions or
Well, I guess there's a punch list on several of those other ones too, though, right? I mean, there's some things that are being corrected or fixed, that where there was a deficiency maybe.
Yes.
I'm talking about Bryson in particular.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, no, we'll have a punch going for, hopefully it won't take that long, but usually a punch can go as long as a year. Obviously, we try and have everything resolved well before then, but yeah, we're in contact, daily if we need to be with the subs. And as, like I said, as staff or as those things are identified, then we try and get those in. If need be, they'll come in overnight, so that as not to disrupt, the school day.
And I guess all those others are irrigated, the improvement we did in the landscaping and everything has water to it.
Yes, yeah, we're still, there's still some sod that needs to be put in at Bryson. And then we're still working on, water tap at Highland Middle School. So yeah, I mean, they will all be sprinkled, yes.
The Highland project, if you've been by, there's a lot of dead plants there, but that's not been turned over to us. So we're
Correct.
not responsible for those plants. They'll have to
Okay.
replace them at their cost. And so you'll see Creekview looks really good. It's been well established. Highland, on the other hand, they've lost a few trees and the grass doesn't look that great, but again, it'll all be
Okay.
taken care of
Yes,
as
sir.
part of the punch.
Yes. Anything else? Okay, I'll have Lisa come up and, yes, I can do that, possibly. Why are we not loading? There we go. There it is. This is not a, yeah. That's good, huh? Yeah. Just do it to one. There you go.
Okay, good evening, President Newcomb, members of the board, and Dr. Chadwell. We're pleased to be here tonight to present our progress on Boswell High School. I do have Lauren Brown. Lauren is a principal in our firm, and she is known for being able to design really tough renovation projects, so I have recruited her to assist on this. And Bryce McCarthy has a lot of experience doing athletic facilities, so he's on our team for a reason. So let's see here. Okay. So tonight what we're going to talk about is basically go over quickly the project goals for this project and then introduce you to the overall concept for each one of the portions of the project. So as we go through it, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to stop me. The first one I wanted to start with is acknowledgements. This represents the folks that we've visited with thus far on the project. We have visited with them to talk about the overall concept, but we're moving from what we consider schematic design phase to design development phase. So we'll be working a lot more closely with them to make sure that we have the outlets where they need and mirrors and things like that in the locker rooms, the right lockers and all that sort of stuff. So our role with them will just increase from this point forward. As you know, this project was part of the 2017 bond, and that the overall objective of this project was to get equitable program spaces at Boswell as it relates mostly to athletics. So this is kind of that final, push for getting the overall campus upgraded from the work that we have done there previously. So the overall goals of the project are to add or replace the football locker room facility, replace the gymnastics locker room facility. Along with that would go training and the weight room, and then to introduce a new indoor practice facility there. that it would also include new homeside parking lot and landscaping. For you guys that were part of the last project that we did a master plan study that will allow for that, and in order to do that, we need to move the practice baseball field. That we would also include some life cycle replacement of finishes and equipment in the press box while we're there. Expand the home side grandstands to increase the capacity and replace the aging grandstands that are in that space. Along with that would come some improvements that would involve additional toilets and some storage areas. Introduce a new agricultural science center, because the footprint of where the ag is currently is where we need the athletics to be. So we're moving that, and I'll show you in just a minute where it will land on the site. New visitor bus parking and some perimeter fencing for the safety and security of the overall campus along the backside primarily. And then replacement of the visitors' restrooms because it also falls in this footprint of where we need. Okay, so here's the overall site plan of the project, and this is a very schematic view of it, but essentially the reddish area here, and when I do that, do you guys see the arrow? I want to make sure, because last time I didn't think we could. The reddish footprint represents the area for the athletic facility expansion. So the addition that will connect to the building and will house those things that we just talked about. In order for us to do that, we're going to relocate the Agricultural Science Center over adjacent to the central plant inside the secure area of the backside of, I guess, the campus adjacent to the library. And so in doing so, we will be rerouting the exterior canopy that would provide them a dry area to walk to get into the main campus building. So it's just going to be adjusting a little bit to the way it is currently into that. The large purple area reflects the area that we're going to be placing the new parking lot in, and I wanted to report that we are right now anticipating about 250 more parking spaces in that area. As we do that, imagine that it's going to open up the vista of when you drive into that side of the campus, and so you'll have the ability to now see the press box and the kind of the opening into the stadium from this side. So that's going to be a nice opportunity for improvement. We anticipate some landscaping that will go along with that. The orange represents the expansion of the stands, the home side stands. And then we have a little restroom and concessions building that will be placed over here on the visitor side of the campus to help serve the auxiliary building when we take down the existing concessions and turf building. So you can see right now this is the anticipated location of the baseball practice field. Okay, so this gives you a better idea about the view coming in. So we imagine that there will be kind of a nice little concourse or area that takes you to the center of the press box. There will be a plaza and paving improvements on this side to integrate it into the overall parking area. But right now we anticipate all of that area back there will be replaced with new concrete paving. Okay, so we'll first talk about the Agricultural Science Center. The basis of this is to make it equitable to the most recent Ag Science Center that you did at Chisholm Trail. It would incorporate 2 classrooms and the shop, as well as an office and then toilets for the students and some adjacent, or I guess miscellaneous storage in the building. Right now, that on this side, on the left-hand side of the plan is the central plant. On the right-hand side will be that new pathway that will be provided, that will be covered, and the rerouting of the fence. So here's an overall view of the new, I guess, design of the Agricultural Science Center. And I failed to mention, I want to make sure that you guys know that Ariane Trosse is going to be designing, he's been designing this building. He's just not here tonight. And I wanted you to know we have that continuity from when we did Marine Creek, and he's also doing the new central administration building. So we've got a lot of continuity there. So we're using the vocabulary of the materials that we have on the existing building. We'll talk a little bit more specifically about it towards the end. I'll show you kind of what those materials are. But as you guys recall, we have The face brick is essentially the brick that we have on the overall campus, that we used the glazed blue brick for some feature walls on the building in the last generation of additions, and then white storefront to tie the building in with the front. Are there any questions on the ag building before I go? Okay.
Does that,
Yes.
how does that increase their size to what they have now? Is it smaller, larger?
Okay.
They have 2 classrooms, and so,
The existing is 5,570 square feet. The proposed is 6,580 square feet, so a little bit larger,
larger.
yeah. And then it'll have all the great
But it matches in
technology.
size the Chisholm Trail.
Yes,
facility.
it's right around the same size as the Chisholm Trail. It has a lot of technology and things too that are gonna be provided in it that will be a nice feature for the classroom portions of it.
Does this tie in, Dana, with HCTC? I mean, is this part of programs that you offer?
It does. We
Okay.
offer, we start our welding program with our ag department.
In here, okay. Okay.
Okay. So the athletic additions and renovations. Okay, so to orient yourselves, the left-hand box, and where I have my arrow, is the gymnastics gym. And the current existing athletic locker rooms, baseball locker rooms, and then the competition gym is shown in gray. What we're trying to do is attach the entire addition to the existing building so that you will be able to travel inside the building to get to these spaces. So at the end of that, for the most part, we're going to have everything under one roof. That what we want to do is we want to tie the connection of the existing doors that go out between the kitchen, food service area, and the gymnastics gym to the addition so that there is also a nice secure pathway from that into the building. It has one connecting corridor, and off that connecting corridor would be the varsity, JV, and freshman locker rooms. External or with an external access point to training so that you can have access during field play for all the sports to go directly into training. This design currently also provides for direct access from all the football locker rooms directly out onto the field. The existing or the new gymnastics locker room facility will be attached to the gymnastics gym. We have an item to note is that there's quite a bit of grade differential on the back, so this will be kind of a split level design where you'll be accessing the gymnastics dressing rooms on the upper level where the gymnastics gyms is currently, but the locker rooms will be down at a lower level. So there won't be any direct connection from the gymnastics dressing rooms to the football locker room addition. You can see that we have the coaches centralized adjacent to all of the athletic locker rooms. And then we've placed the athletic coordinator kind of down here on a pivot point so that you've got a safe and secure sort of observation point down at the end adjacent to the indoor practice field. That we anticipate that we're going to tuck in some storage area between the existing building footprint up kind of north of this indoor practice facility. Out, you can see the edge of the track, and we are in the process of developing a design solution that would incorporate landscaping and some aesthetic improvements between, not just have a sea of concrete between the end of the track and the locker rooms, but we don't have that quite developed yet, so right now we're just kind of have a placeholder for that. We are in hopes of being able to eliminate the fire lane that would have to go between those two things, and we have a meeting set up with the city of Fort Worth at the end of the month to go visit with them on that. We think we can get the coverage without having to go through there, even though the plaza would be designed for vehicular access and we would have plenty of room if you had to get an ambulance or something up there. But we're trying to not have it be striped as a fire lane. We would design it that if something did happen, you would have to do it. But that's our proposal to the city, and hopefully they will agree. Okay.
Is there glass between that coordinator's office and that indoor practice facility?
Yes.
Sure it is,
Yes.
right? Just clear.
Yes, so it's a nice observation point to see, kind of all over that space as far as kids moving around. The addition is gonna be a two-story space. I talked to you a little bit about the split level portion, but it really is gonna be a true two-story. So on the second floor, what we'll have is the weight room, and then we'll have the team room upstairs, and then a conference room up here that also, hopefully, will have the opportunity to look over that indoor practice facility, so it'd be kind of nice viewpoint from that standpoint. And then we'll have some storage up here on the upper floor. This white area right here is gonna be the roof of the gymnastics locker room, kind of adjacent or below the second floor. And we anticipate being able to put some mechanical units up there. They'll be screened by the profile of the existing building. But one of the unique, well, I'll show you just a second on that part of it. I won't try to explain it. Okay, so this is a view from the home side stands looking at the existing conditions on the backside of the field. You can see the gymnastics locker room here, which is a tilt wall building. You can see the locker room building, which is tilt wall, and this is that entrance that I told you that we provided in the last edition up there towards the cafeteria, and it connects into that main hallway. So it's a nice spine or circulation point in Boswell High School. So our proposed addition is trying to take advantage of really building culture and spirit at the end of the football field so that it's a nice feature for the number of events that you guys hold at the stadium. So we've placed the weight room up on the upper floor, and it gives the opportunity for you to have glass looking out over the field to encourage the athletes, to connect them to the overall athletic complex, because not only are you going to be able to see the football field and the stadium, but you'll also be able to see the auxiliary field and the baseball and softball fields as well. So I think it's going to be a nice feature to encourage them to lift weights. What we've introduced is a balcony outside of that weight room that would have limited access, but it would give you the opportunity to really build some experience at game time. I can imagine that you would be able to possibly put posters or the banners that the cheerleaders make, and that the athletes would be able to come and enter the field down that walk area that we're trying to improve between that main spine and the field house, introducing some landscape on the area, but they would come in underneath the balcony, and I can see that there could be some new traditions that would be developed by that, that I think would be exciting as they come in and enter the stadium. And then over here you can see that the vocabulary of the freshman locker rooms and the training area, that it's really a little bit understated, as far as just being brick to match the overall campus and to allow some natural light into the training spaces. So,
Fence gone then? Is that what,
pardon me?
that fence that's around it now?
We are in the process of discussing. My guess is you would still have a fence around the track area, but a low profile vinyl coated fence, but we have not gotten into the details of that yet. But I think it's nice to be able to protect your track and field from not allowing vehicles to get on it, so I suspect we'll end up with something. But we haven't gotten into the details of that
So
yet.
that's a walkway, no longer traffic can go through there.
Correct. We're going to try to cut off vehicular traffic from that side and swing around the back side to that, in order to accomplish both the bus entry and for the fire lane.
Similar to Chisholm Trail, in that respect, we have concrete in that area, right outside the weight room.
Good.
Okay, so this is a rendition that we did that you can see that if you had banners up there, that it gives you an opportunity to sort of increase the experience of, I guess, the feeling of coming into the home of the Pioneers. This is a rendering of inside the weight room, so you can kind of get a feel of what you're going to see outside that space, and I guess encouraging environment that it would be for these athletes. Okay, are there any other questions on that part of on the athletic edition? Okay. Okay, so we'll move to the press box and grandstands. Okay, so Part of the objective of this project is to get some equitable facilities between not only those that we talked about inside the field house, but also those that are being provided on the exterior. This is an example of, or these are photos of the Boswell press box and the backside of the stands, and this is the Chisholm Trail press box. And you can see that there's, you know, quite a lot of difference, I guess, in the profile. This project, or the photo on the Boswell High School, is a little bit deceiving because here you can see the press box, you know, it's real obvious when you're inside the baseball practice field. But when you drive up to the stands, as you guys recall, the metal fence out there restricts your view from the outside of the Boswell press box. So we would anticipate, now that we're going to be uncovering it, we'll be making some improvements and try to introduce some sort of graphics similar to what you have at Ranger Stadium on the backside of the press box, and then do our best to try to make some stand improvements on that backside. So I thought the best way for us to talk about some of the challenges that we're faced with this is to kind of revisit the history of Boswell High School. For those of you that might not have been here that long, essentially the way the home side stands were constructed is that there was a center section that still exists there that is restricted from the other two sections. The center section was provided in the very initial stadium, construction of the project. That it is our understanding that the north side bay was added for the students. It was expanded to support students on that north side. So that north section between the stadium, or the home side stands, and the building was provided for to support students. Then in 2002, we were involved with adding the southern section, which again is another bay section that's separate with, you know, different, I'll call it guardrail walls between the two. And then we went in and made some modifications to the existing stands to truncate the front of it. The stands used to go all the way down to the field. And then I understand that that's how you navigated, you know, down to the concession stand was in front of the stands. And that there was no real separation between where the spectators were and the field. And so that we went back and truncated or cut off the front of the stands and then elevated the concourse, crosswalk limit, I should say, so that it would allow you to get up above the students and folks that were on the sidelines and try to improve some of the sight lines there. Then we came in and we cut off a couple of rows actually off the back side of the stands so that we could build the press box. So that was in 2002. And part of the reason was that you were wedged in between your practice baseball field and the stands, and so we constructed the press box between those two fixed elements.
At that time, that was the actual baseball field. That's where
The actual baseball. Yeah, you're right. Excuse me. Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, now it's
yes,
the
but
practice.
absolutely, you're right. Good point. So this is the profile of the existing stands as they exist now. So you can see how it integrates with the press box. That part of our scope of the project right now is to go in and upgrade or make life cycle improvements on the building systems and the finishes. So having been built in 2002, it's reaching, you know, or it has exceeded some of the life expectancy of some of the finishes, even though they're in pretty good shape as far as, you know, because of how long they are or that they've been in existence. But, you know, the time is definitely now to make those improvements, you know, since we're going to be in and around the project. So that's part of it. And then to make sure I've covered all of this. So with the design of the existing stands, that the pitch of the seats is shallower than what you would normally have these days. So part of the sightline issues related to kind of what you're experiencing at the existing stands is they have a lower pitch rate. So the row-to-row height between the seating is shallower than what you have at your other stands, and we're gonna show that here in just a second. Okay, so another thing before I go is, one thing to note, so we're down here at track level here, that the existing grade actually slopes up under the stands currently, and so we're just trying to show what the best we know of the profile that's happening underneath those stands. We're in the process of getting a topographic survey, and we'll have a little bit better idea, but this is a pretty good representation.
Well, the original stands were on that hill. They
On the
was
hill?
kind of concrete. Back in '60, when they built it, it was just, I happen to know that personally.
I like that.
Yeah.
Down at the ends, though, you have the concession buildings that are elevated up off of the lower track level grade, so that kind of
Those weren't
goes
there in
out
the
and
60s.
meets with that, so. So there's limited, or the space underneath the stands and the existing grades is a little bit shallower than what we have at Chisholm Trail, and so we're gonna show you a profile of that. So keep that kind of in your mind. Okay, so what we try to do to illustrate what the difference is, we overlaid the black is Boswell, okay? So that black outline are the existing stands and the profile of the Boswell press box. The red represents the profile of what we've done at Chisholm Trail. So you can see that the press box itself has a larger profile. It's a little bit larger in square footage. And the way it relates to the track is different in that we have elevated that first row of seats up considerably so that the folks sitting in this area can look over the people that are in the crosswalk. So does everybody understand what I'm talking about there? Okay, yay. Okay, so.
Can I make a comment?
Uh-huh.
I know from my past experience and being in the athletic department, and I appeared right after, I got here in '04, so this was done prior to me, the last renovation. But I know that the press box itself has some pretty major issues. One being the elevator. I've got locked in the elevator 3 times myself. It's never worked very well. It always, you feel like you're never gonna escape out of it. The HVAC system is, you can't heat and cool very good up there. It's always sweat, it's got some problems. The IDF room is about as big as the chair we're sitting in up here. So there's no room because we've expanded all that. We put in the video boards. We've done all that, but that stuff, there was no place for that stuff in that press box. So it's just a hodgepodge, a makeshift of a bunch of stuff. And the sightline issue is, in my opinion, something that you can't fix with the existing press box, because if you've gone to Chisholm Trail and Saginaw and you sit in those stands, I mean, your vision and view is, it's a 180 compared to what we have at Boswell. And I just personally think the press box isn't, because of the things we need to do to it to upgrade it, and then the sight line can't be changed. I think the press box needs to go by the way of the stands, which needs to be demoed out and moved back some, because then you can get the sight line better, because we were restricted when we built it initially because of the baseball field. So it could be moved back a little bit. You could get the sight line of the stands, and because what we're going to do to this, we're going to be tied to this for the next 30 to 50 years. And if we're going to sit there and have such a shallow sightline view, I think we'd be making a huge mistake if we didn't address the press box along with the stands.
Is that in the proposal that you're presenting tonight, or is that a change to what you would think?
No, it's really just to illustrate kind of what the differences are and kind of what we're up against. Now, one would think if we're replacing the stands, we might be able to lift the stands to some degree, but we are restricted by the height of the press box, because right now we're at the optimum differential between the first opening in the press box and the first row of seats for somebody to stand. So you know, to lift any of it up as a higher pitch is going to start to provide sightline issues with the press box even worse. Now, we're trying to, in order for us to expand the seating, we're going down goal line to goal line, you know, in front of the press box. In order to do that, we're gonna end up relocating the sports lighting, because right now it's on the sides and you have one, you might recall, back at the front of the press box. So part of the project, what we're gonna need to do is to relocate that to make way for some of the stands as well. So, making improvements on that.
So that would be instead of making it taller, decide, I've never liked the goal line stands.
Well, you know, that's how you maximize the seats, but what I'm saying is you're gonna, you know, we're gonna have to go ahead and do that anyway to get the most number of seats on there, because we can't really do anything because the press box is restricting us this way.
But if we rebuilt the press box and moved it back, then you wouldn't necessarily have to go
Correct.
line to goal line with the stands, because you would gain some seating capacity
Correct.
going up.
That's exactly right.
With the
Exactly.
board's direction, we can certainly ask them to modify that design to address the press box and make it equitable to Chisholm Trail and to Saginaw.
Would that be in the scope of what was contemplated with the committee that did this?
I wouldn't say it's completely out of the scope. There was never there wasn't a large discussion about the press box either way. So I don't think it would be a big surprise to the committee that we included it as they made their recommendation to you. And we certainly never excluded it from that at all. But in terms of the scope of the project, we do have some contingencies built into our overall bond line to be able to address. And if Jim was here, he had an emergency that he had to leave today. For tonight, we are having some advantageous, we believe we're gonna have some advantageous bond sales with historic lows and those percentages. So we have a lot of positive numbers that we're looking at in terms of capacity. We've scheduled, of course, the big project is coming up as Eagle Mountain High School. There is $250 million in the bond line for that. Of course, we don't want to spend that much, and for any capacity we take from that, we can look at other projects, which we have, and address. So, speaking for Jim, I hate to do that since he's not here, and Cleet, we're supportive of this change. If the board's comfortable with making this determination. Again, what Mr. Daughtry said, whatever decision we make here will extend for many, many years. So it's a big decision.
Yeah, I don't disagree with any. I just want to make sure it's
Sure.
in the scope, because this sounds like quite a bit difference in terms of the financials if we were to make that type of a modification.
I believe you have an estimate of what that would be.
Right now, preliminarily, looking at just a unit cost replacement for the press box. Overall, we're at about 68% difference right now, with the renovations trying to address the HVAC, the roofing, the exterior materials, all the interior systems. Between that and what we think a new press box would cost, the new press box we're estimating right now, based on the square footage of what Chisholm Trail has, is 2.3 million, 2.35 million. And right now, the estimate that we got on the upgrades of the existing, and that's not going to include things like the graphics and things that we're hoping to add to it, and the structure that we need to reinforce for that, is about 1.5 to 1.6. So, you know, you've already got a big part of it in here. And I think, like you pointed out, Dr. Chadwell, is now, if you're gonna ever do it, now's when you wanna do it, because you can right the rest of the wrongs with that process. Now, one thing I didn't mention,
That's not
Yeah,
bad.
so it's 30,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
not
not
quite
bad
40%,
difference.
Plus,
35%
when you go
cost
to
increase to fix it all.
the support structure to redo that outside to support, you know, a Boz logo on the exterior,
correct.
like we have the stars and stuff at Chisholm Trail,
we'll
that's
have to
not
get
cheap
into the
either.
structure, right?
Yeah.
Now, one thing I didn't mention, Mr. Daughtry, is that, you know, what we'll be able to do in this process is move the stands closer to the track, like we have it at Chisholm Trail. If we're able to do that, because then we can also, we can get it closer to the field and then increase the overall height and get where it needs to be in the overall.
And then you have all your then you have your area underneath that you can walk and be like a real stadium.
Well, Mr.
Now-
Doctor, you bring up a good point, especially for inclement weather, although that's not a good permanent location. In some types of weather, certainly with rain and others, that gives us an area for people to stand.
Now, the topography is different, you know, than what you have at Chisholm Trail, because at Chisholm Trail, you're pretty much level on that as you come off the track side. But I still think we can accomplish really close to that here, so.
We should look at that.
Okay?
Okay. So talking about the palette, just to kind of give you a reminder that we're trying to draw in the existing palette of the overall campus, and you can see here that even at the athletic areas, we have the blue glazed brick and then white metal features and then just the brick itself. So that, and we're trying to respect the architecture, you know, so that it harkens back to what we did on the last phase. Okay, so quickly, to give you an update of what we anticipate for the phasing, that with our hopes of being able to utilize CM at risk, we'll be able to do it in multi-phases that overlap each other so that it stands to support our initiatives in a faster way. And that we really need to get that Ag Science Center out of the footprint of the football area. So that would be one of our first things that we'd be able to really focus in and accomplish as a first phase. The second phase, that we would address the home side parking lot to the greatest degree possible. So we may not be able to accomplish all of it, because if we do the press box relocation, so part of that might be tied to that, but we would be able to, I feel confident, to open up a good deal of that parking and get that done, hopefully next summer. Next summer also, we would be working on utility relocation. The project looks real simple, and we said that the way we presented it tonight, but we have a lot of electrical service that's going on the back side. The rest of it is not as scary as what we thought, but the electrical service is one of the bigger issues. So we are working closely with them now to try to see about relocating that. And then we would, in the interim, go in and do some demolition and temporary relocation of the athletic facilities, hopefully in the existing turf room, kind of the concessions areas. We're looking at trying to make some makeshift space there so we can get those guys out of there for when we need to do the construction. And then we would start the athletic facility addition and renovation and the grandstand and press box improvements between seasons. So we would want to start immediately after your last game in the stadium for football, and then have it ready for the next football season. In our discussions with contractors, I think that's doable, but we won't know until we get somebody on board and they can look technically at it.
That would be a, 9-month turn there for that phase 4?
We have done it successfully before. With respect to the stadium improvements, I think the scope of the athletics could be achieved as well, but if it's not, at least the football locker room portion of it, and then let the indoor lag behind it if necessary. But that's too early for me to really predict that. Our initial feedback has been that it seems doable. But we have to have a plan that's ready to go so that shop drawings are in place and everything's been approved and they're shipping materials so that we can take advantage of every day that we have in there.
And you talked about, how does that affect the soccer? Because that plays there too. And that season is longer, so how, what would?
Correct. We would be having to move them off of the home side stands. The visitor side would still be available to them.
Visitor side.
But that or the auxiliary field would be still available to them. But we would keep the those concessions open until we get
Be more concerned
the
about the
space
safety
done.
with it's under construction, yet you still have people playing and coming
Yeah,
on and
but
off. And
you'd all be on the visitor side and all the construction's up there. Because if I recall soccer games, we could barely fill the visitor side. So,
it wouldn't be seating, it'd just be more safety, I would think.
Well, we do want to continue to use the field for practices and things like that, so.
I think we'll be
they'll
able to
stick to the work
segregate it,
site.
yeah, safely. Because you got quite an investment in there now. I mean, we can't have them over there on the track and field, so we'll have to build partition that off for their construction. And try to do the most of it during the summer, you know, if it's invasive, to schedule it when kids are out of school.
We're tearing down the existing building that will, I guess it's a tilt wall building that they currently are in.
Mhm.
That'll go away completely. And the original concession stand that's now storage there, I guess. That little building that's kind of standing.
Yeah, that's
by
going
itself.
away,
Okay,
correct.
I just trying to picture, okay,
Yes.
go ahead, sorry.
And then the last one would be that we would demo the turf room and then
Last
get
thing,
that
okay.
cleaned out. And right now, we would be rebuilding in that space, a new restroom, storage area, and I think concessions would be in there. We haven't talked specifically about it, but over in that area between the auxiliary field and the visitors
I
field.
think that's the
Yeah,
PTA,
that's the PTA.
PTA
concession.
concession.
Okay, so
And right
that
now,
would be
there's
the
no,
place for
you know,
that.
if you're on the auxiliary field, the concession stand's not particularly accessible, so we may be able to address that in the design as well. Have maybe a multi-side or something where we can open up that side for games.
Okay. So, next steps, assuming that you guys think we're on the right path, that we will continue in the concept development and start moving towards design development. We have a meeting at the end of the month to go see the city of Fort Worth to talk to them about the overall projects and let them weigh in on any zoning or code-related issues that they see. We are hopeful that construction manager at risk will be the procurement method that you guys might be considering tonight on the agenda. And if so, we'll be immediately going out for that process so that we can expedite that and get them engaged in the overall advisory role during design. And then we'll complete construction documents between now and the end, or May, based on the number of packages that we have. So we'll be back, hopefully, during interim stages to deliver these interim packages to you for consideration of construction before the final project. And so, anyway, we anticipate the first package hopefully coming to you in December. So we're working rapidly to peel out that ag facility and some of the site development or site stuff so that we can get the utilities and concrete working next summer. Okay, so sorry that I was so long-winded, and are there any other questions?
Looks good, Lisa. Thank you for your work on that.
Oh, thank you.
And your team. Appreciate it.
Okay, very good, thank you.
We're gonna take, you don't get a chance to get back up there, Dwayne, sorry. We'll get the rest of it after, at the 7 o'clock meeting. It is currently 6:08 PM on September 23rd, 2019. This board will now recess for dinner and then reconvene in a closed meeting pursuant to the following sections of the Texas Open Meetings Act: 551.071, consultation with board's attorney; 551.072, considering the purchase or exchange of real property; 551.074, purpose of deliberating the appointment, employment, reassignment of duties, or discipline of a public officer or employee; 551.075, deliberations regarding specific occasions for security; and 551.082, considering discipline of a public school child or complaint or charge against personnel. This is a public meeting of the Board of Education of the Eagle Mountain Saginaw Independent School District. This board is reconvening the public meeting September 23rd, 2019 at 7:03 PM. And will now consider the subject set forth in the posted agenda. Welcome, everybody, to our September meeting. And we're going to start with the opening ceremony by High Country Elementary, Ms. Beth Sanders.
Dr. Chadwell, President Newcomb, and the board, thank you so much. We're honored to be here tonight for the opening ceremonies of our school board meeting. I would like to introduce three amazing students from High Country Elementary. Reveille Cote is a fifth grade student at High Country, and she is involved in a lot of organizations on our campus. She's involved in UIL and Chess Club. She's also our 2018-19 Spelling Bee champion of our campus. Reveille is a student of great character. She demonstrates a high academic mindset as well as empathy toward others. Reveille is creative and an innovative thinker, and she is a role model to other students at High Country. Ashley Reese is in 4th grade. Ashley has an optimistic outlook on school. She finds the positive in any situation. In class, Ashley models focus. She stays on task, does her best regardless of any difficulties, and she perseveres. She shows through example and a modest demeanor, and Ashley notices when her peers and teachers need help and often offers to give her support. Ashley's a good friend to many different students. She can be seen playing with different groups of students at recess. She might be playing make-believe by the equipment one day and football with the boys the next. Just depends on what her mood is that day. She is truly a role model to many. We are proud to have Ashley represent High Country. And Abigail Walker is our 2nd grade student, and she loves art and music. Abigail has been positively shown amazing behavior. She stands tall and proud with poise and grace when she is participating in class. She loves to learn and encourages others to do the same. Abigail works hard in class, but also enjoys extracurricular activities that allow her to show her creativity, like music and art, and especially drawing. And we are pleased to be here this evening to lead the pledges. Oh, I would like to can I introduce their parents? I almost forgot to do that. I would like to, Reveille and Abigail are sisters, and their parents are Amanda Brown and Travis Walker, who are here this evening. And Ashley Reese's parents are Jacqueline and Robert Reese. Reveille, will you hold the microphone? Please join us in a moment of silence. Thank you very much.
Thank you, High Country. Thank you. Next in communications, we have some special recognitions. Megan?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you, High Country. That was fantastic. So tonight we have another special recognition for you. Tonight we are proud to recognize another business in the TASB Business Recognition Program. So Eagle Mountain Saginaw ISD and its schools value the partnerships that we have with our local businesses, and we've benefited tremendously from the generous support of our businesses and organizations in our community. These partnerships provide vital support and resources that enhance the educational environments and opportunities for our students and staff. The Texas Association of School Boards offers a business recognition program for school districts to honor the businesses and organizations for their support. EMS ISD is proud to recognize Huckabee Architects as a valued district partner in our efforts to plan and prepare for continued growth. As a TASB recognition program honoree, they're going to get all sorts of different items. They'll get a letter and a certificate. They'll get a lovely lapel pin. Remember we did the lovely lapel pin. And some additional we support Texas Public Schools information. At this time, if I would have Allie come join me. This is a joint partnership with the Education Foundation and Community Partnerships and the district to present the information.
Chris Huckabee, the CEO of Huckabee, and Gary Rademacher, Chief Client Relationships Manager, are both longtime supporters of EMS ISD students and teachers. Chris serves on multiple boards and speaks frequently on topics related to education and the industry he's dedicated his career to. He was twice appointed by former Governor Rick Perry to the Texas Higher Education Coordination Board, and he currently serves as chairman of the Board of Regents at Texas Tech University, where he continues his service to the advancement of education and to the future of our state of Texas. Chris believes in EMS educators and students, and he supports deserving students and teachers seeking a scholarship to enhance our community's talent and make a difference in their lives. Gary has served in education enhancement for over 2 decades. He cares deeply about the communities he serves and the students he impacts in his body of work, and he's committed as a leader. He serves as an officer on the board of directors for the EMS Education Foundation, supporting projects and programs and events that benefit student and teacher scholarships. He is instrumental in presenting awards to the EMS teachers for 21st Century Learning Grants and educational grants. Those proposals are for students in the classroom. He's a true actions speak louder than words, public education champion, and selfless volunteer leader.
Thank you, Allie. Here at EMS ISD, we know the value of the help that we have received from Huckabee, and we are deeply appreciative of this partnership. We are pleased to announce that this generosity you have shown is now recognized at the state level. The Texas Association of School Boards joins with us in honoring your valuable support for our schools. We'd like to present this recognition to you in grateful appreciation for all you've done for this district. We hope you will continue your work to stand up for public schools, and through this honor, you are able to encourage others to join with you in your support. If you'll come forward, please. We have a few little things for you. Yes. Please accept this lovely lapel pin first, because that's the most important part, right? We love the lapel pin. And wear it proudly, it says, to announce your recognition of this prestigious award of service to our kiddos. On behalf of the trustees, educators, and students, we want to thank you. We have certificates for you, as well as some EMS ISD hardware. Thank you.
So I'm kind of blown away by this. I attended my first board meeting when I was in 2nd grade, honestly with my father, so I've been attending board meetings for quite a long time in my life, and this is the first time I've ever had anything like this, so thank you guys very much. You know, I would say this, Gary and I neither one are short on words, but I wanted to say something, and that is that education changed my life, and I'll bet it changed every one of yours, and thank you for what you're doing, because that's really the most important thing we can all do. I jump out of bed every day because I believe public education is the greatest equalizer in the world, and it's just fun to do what we do. So thank you for this honor, and very much thank you guys for what you do, because you're making a difference, and I feel like together we are really making a difference. So thank you. Gary, any comments? I know you're not short on words.
Following the CEO is not easy. Y'all mean the world to me, personally and professionally. And thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for this award and this honor. It really is an honor to serve on the Education Foundation Board, but more importantly, just to call you friends. And we appreciate that, not just here between Chris and I, but the entire firm. We believe that we're friends. And so thank you again.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
That concludes our recognitions this evening.
All right, thank you, Megan. That moves us to the action item portion of the agenda. The first is to set a special meeting for superintendent appraisal, and I'll point out that we did that previously in July, and the meeting is set for Thursday, November 21st at 5 p.m. And to my knowledge, there's no other action that needs to be taken on this item. So we'll move to Act B, act on the method of procurement for Boswell High School athletic addition and renovations. Wayne Jones? I'm sorry, did you have a question? Okay. Go ahead, come on. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm gonna make a motion that we designate two-step construction manager at risk as the method of procurement for Boswell High School athletics additions and renovations.
Second. Motion by Liz and second by Tim. Other questions, or anybody need kind of refresher on what that is? William, you okay? You're good? Okay. All right, seeing there's no questions, all in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? And there are none, motion carries. I'm gonna hit the gavel, 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good job. Next is consider approving the 1920 additional staffing requests. Dr. Dawkins. Sorry?
Wasn't there a report on that we didn't hear? She can probably do it now, but.
You're gonna give the report and the,
I would like to.
good,
Yes,
sure.
Thank
Ex-
you.
Excellent.
Okay, wonderful. President Newcomb, members of the board, Dr. Chadwell,
Thank
thank you. We have an additional staffing report that we feel like is essential for Hafley Development Center, and so that's why we're bringing it to you as a report in action. It allows for an additional staff member to monitor for our parent pickup and drop off, just to ensure the safety of our littles as they're coming in with their parents, and then ensuring a safe, it's really for walk-ins, when they're walking in with their own children, to have somebody there at the door all the time. So want to be sure that that's covered. Any questions on that
I move
position?
that the board approve the 2019-2020 additional staffing report as presented by Dr. Dawkins.
Second.
Motion by Liz, second by Paige. Questions or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? And there are none, motion carries 7-0. Thank you, Dr. Dawkins. We move back to the reports from the 5 o'clock session, and we were in the middle of operations report. And not too quick there. Dwayne?
He went out, would be okay.
Nah. You want to move on and come back?
Yes, sir. Well, here he is, right here.
There he is.
There he is. You're up, Mr. Jones. The Copper Creek Attendance Zone timeline.
Yes, sir.
All right.
To go tell the okay that we already passed that. Thank you. I'm sorry for not being present. It's time for us to do start the process on the rezoning for Copper Creek Elementary School.
It's on page 64, by the way. I know I'm kind of skipping around a little bit. Okay.
Most recently, we completed this process for Marine Creek. That obviously just opened. Copper Creek is scheduled to open in August of 2020. We currently have a meeting that is at the first part of October with Bob Templeton, our demographer. And then we have our first meeting, town hall type meeting or whatever at Comanche Springs Elementary on October the 29th at 6 p.m. Right now, we're kind of thinking that may be the only campus that is going to be impacted by it. But if it turns out there's a possibility Chisholm Ridge may also be, we'll find out more when we meet with Bob. But if Chisholm Ridge is also impacted, then we'll have a town hall meeting also for that as well. So if this is just more information, I guess, to give you tonight, and just to make sure that you're okay with the process that we use for Marine Creek. And if you're fine with that, then we'll continue on the path that we're currently going.
With the overall goal of keeping the feeder patterns elementary to middle to high school?
Yes, sir.
Still? Okay.
Yes, yeah. So,
Any questions? Thank you.
thanks.
Now, Dr. Parker,
Third time's the charm, right?
you're up. Aspire 2022 Strategic Plan Update.
Okay, so Kirk's messing with me over here, so. Thank you and good evening. I'm on page 65 of the board book if you're looking for this. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to address our strategic plan. As you know, we're in the final stages of the 10-year plan, even though it's the 8th year, going into the 9th. And with that, I'm excited about what I'll present tonight to you, but I've also have a letter for you in regards to our strategic planning process. So you have that information.
It is at their place, I hope.
We're excited to gain your guidance and direction as we move forward. And so you can let me know if you're interested in being part of that strategic team process. Tonight, when I came in March, I gave a lot of narrative accounts of what's happening with Aspire 2022. As we move through tonight's presentation, I'm going to highlight each strategy and really highlight specifics that what we've been doing in regards to the plan. Of course, everything centers around these 3 goals that we have set in Aspire so that we do provide that dynamic, customized education plan. It's full of innovative technological skills for our children and even teachers, I need to say that, so that our students leave here prepared and qualified to succeed in their future. And we keep that in mind with what we do. Our core beliefs are the very foundation of the work that we have in Aspire. We, tonight, are right there on number 7, which is that accountability is essential to success. We need to hold ourselves accountable for the plan that has been laid out. Our 6 strategies guide us in our work. As we go through these, the first thing I want you to see are the 3-year longitudinal data. I've actually had 4 years of data, but it started really, really low. So I thought, the past 2 years, we've really been focused. It's exciting to see that in almost every single area. As I told you previously, it's hard to, once you get to the 4, I've noticed that we're harder on ourselves to push forward. I found that when we review our processes, even when we're staying true to the rubrics. However, we are making gains, and that's very exciting. As you see, in collaboration, we are at a 4.0. That's very exciting. That's one of those areas that, as you are aware of in our survey data, is one of our highest areas of success. Getting into the specific strategies, this has a 0.5 increase, personalized education plans. This is one of the areas where we've kind of struggled with. However, in the last 2 years, with intentionality, we've really focused on what are we doing so that our children are getting individualized help and working to meet the needs of all 21,000 students. At your computers as well, you'll see a little handout of personalized education plans. Under the leadership of our Director of Counseling, Mariela Alvarado, the counselors have worked so that this will be published stating what are our expectations at each grade level. So I'm excited about this. This is a guiding force. It'll be on the desk of the counselors. They helped create it. So if they're like, what do I need to be doing? This is your playbook, basically. So excited about that. In addition to this work, or right aligned with that work, which let me say this, alignment is the focus and the theme word of the night is alignment. With that, we've set lots of student goals in the past year. Our students in elementary have data folders where you will see their goals in writing and in math. We've also asked them to set an academic or behavior goal that they track throughout the year. The high school level, it's very interesting when you ask students if you're goal setting at the high school level, because they usually will say what? No. But then their teachers will go, remember the sheets that we take and we track your goals? And they're like, oh yeah, we do that all the time. I thought it was interesting when I'm walking campuses to hear them. But we're doing that at our secondary campuses as well. And many of our secondary campuses are using either an online notebook at this time, going into this year, or the data folders like elementary. Very excited about the work we've done here, and that's why it's increased a half a point. Moving into strategy 2 is our technology plan. Technology is a remaining constant as we continue to build the resources and work for embedded technology that supports the learning in the curriculum. I think you can go to any of our social media sites and see the work that's being done daily with our students and with our teachers. When we look here, our steps are developing stronger teacher usage of devices for enhanced lessons, as well as quick formatives. We've worked intentionally to embed technology within the curriculum so it is not the driving force, but it is the enhancer to the curriculum and to learning. We can never hit a 4.0 in technology, I was told, because one of the action steps in the 4.0 says that we will create a cumulative list of all resources used in the district. As soon as we create that, it's obsolete, and so we can't hit that 4.0 on the rubric scale. So they wanted me to be sure and to make sure you knew that. We are Also working the blended learning model, as I've stated earlier, about the embedding of technology in the curriculum, but we're also part of a Texas-wide grant for blended learning. 3 of our schools are and have just attended some training. We'll know later in this fall if they receive that. We've also added some additional pieces to our technology, including Nearpod, which is a curriculum enhancement piece with over hundreds of thousands of videos and opportunities for in-class field trips through the virtual world. Speaking of the virtual world, we've added some pilot Z-Space units at our comprehensive high schools. These are virtual reality engagement devices, computers. We have some laptops and some standalones where students can put on the devices. They can pull a heart out, take it apart, watch it pump, put a camera inside the heart, monitor the process, and do some really cool things with a lot of different items. So good things happening in technology. So we move to strategy 3. We've increased to point 1. Again, this is collaborative work. You've heard me talk a lot about this area, and we're at that 4.0 point. When we look at this is truly who we are. I'm going to talk more really about collaborative work when I get to strategy 6, but you've heard me talk a lot about our PLCs, our cross-departmental work, and the continued work with this. One exciting thing that you're going to hear when we do the calendar piece is how we're working to embed opportunities within the calendar days that we can use for PLC work and not have to pull teachers off of campuses. So you'll hear more about that as well. Culture and our number 4 strategy also increased point 1. Major to this area is the MTSS model. This is a strong strategy because it connects so well to collaboration. Our strength in this is because we work together. Again, you're going to hear me talk about this in the stay interviews in strategy 6. All Pro Dads, Read to Win are just a couple of examples of programs that we brought to the district this past year. And safety and security continue to grow strong, especially when the legislation so kindly mandates that they have to be, and we're going to take care of kids. So good things happening there. Strategy 5, program evaluation and assessment. Karen Miller has brought in our PDSA model as the Director of Continuous Improvement in PD. We have alignment. When we look at this, you've seen this before. I think you have an example of one, but that alignment of where are we in our PD? What are we doing? Who's been trained? Who hasn't been trained? What onboarding techniques do we have for those new to the campus as part of that evaluation process and part of that process of making sure that we're aligning our professional development based on the data in our campus improvement plans, which are aligned to our district improvement plans. We've also been utilizing Forecast 5 as dashboards for data to help direct our learning. We have several dashboards on that, and I think I've written you about that, so I won't spend too long there. Next steps on that curriculum audit starting this fall. Finally, we get to strategy 6 in recruitment. We're at a 3.7 here. I promised HR I would tell them and tell you guys they are at a 3.7 not because of them, but actually because of professional development, which falls under my category. HR's been doing some great things, including a market analysis to stay competitive. They conduct these annual market analyses of salaries using data from both Region 10 and Region 11. With the information they've been brought back to you, you have increased our salaries. We stay very competitive, and it makes EMS ISD the talk of the area, I'm told, by other districts. So that's awesome. I want to share the stay interviews. This is something that unique that Dr. Gamel and Dr. Dawkins and Dr. Waters have all brought in. They have conducted stay interviews at 7 campuses over the past 2 years. We've heard of interviews, you know, when you're leaving, why are you leaving? These are, why are you staying? What do you like about EMS ISD? The running theme in these is collaboration, and I like who I work with, and I like who I work for. So I think that's critical. That is across all of the campuses. And so we really, I love when Dr. Gamel says, we're family. and they believe it, and that's what it's all about, that we're united in that. I love it. They've increased in HR the online application for all, so our process is so quick to hire someone. It has decreased like 75%. And finally, the substitute training and pay. I think I'm as excited about that as anything, but you are aware because you've approved that substitute pay on those Fridays and Mondays in hard-to-fill areas, and it's much appreciated. One of the things, the reason this is at a 3.7 and can't bump up is when we look at the action steps, we're looking at onboarding for every single position. We have onboarding plans for, and I'm talking about a written document for onboarding. We have them in HR, we have them for principals, teachers, counselors, directors. I probably have left off something, but we still need to develop some for paraprofessionals in some of our departments, but we have made great progress there. And the second piece that we have not done, and it's been, we've tried it, it didn't work for us, and that was online professional development, intense online professional development. We have our compliance bundles online, and we have opportunities for online training, but we still do most of our training face-to-face because, again, it's aligning to the work here. So our plans this year are to start recording those, and so bumping again, we're staying true to the strategic plan this year, even as we will be developing a new one. So have several things that we've done in regards to recruitment and keeping people here. We've just added, and we'll be training in October our sponsors so that our students can have an online volunteer opportunity, tracking opportunity. Excited about that. And that brings us to the end of Aspire 2022 update. Do you have any questions? I will work to keep you updated in the board updates. Thank you.
One thing, just before you step away, working on the next plan, which is unnamed at this point. We don't know if we'll keep with Aspire or if we'll just say Aspire 20-something else, or if we'll actually create a new name. But our plan right now is to leave our mission and also leave our beliefs as the same. We feel like both of those are really have no reason to change those for any purpose. We feel like they're really working for us, although we will look at everything beyond that. This is a great problem. You know, we don't want to set on this progress for the next few years and say, okay, well, it's not 2022 yet. You know, we want to finish this, so this really is a 10-year plan being finished early. Those areas that we felt like, and I'll say particularly with personal education plans, where we feel like we really need to dig into some specific areas, especially in an area with high mobility as we have, we're going to really look at those cases with a great priority in this next plan. And one thing we want to do in January, and one reason I mention this now, is we want you to be a part of a workshop in January where you'll have input into those things that will help guide the strategic planning committee, and also, of course, the opportunity for 2 or 3 of you to be a part of the strategic planning committee as well. So be thinking if you're interested, and just visit with Dr. Parker or me, and be happy to help with that. So
I've talked to Paige just kind of briefly, but she was on the other one.
Yes.
So hopefully, Paige, I know you're going to think about it.
You were on it.
Okay, okay, good. I think it would be good to continue, you'd have some board continuation there.
And if for whatever reason we have more than 3, there would be a possibility of using a certain number of board members for the first group. And then there's other groups that we could have other board members. So it's certainly not capped at 3, it's just capped at 3 for that particular meeting.
Well, we have committee members, and we have
I would suggest Marilyn would be on
Marilyn
that as
said,
well.
we've already
TCU
recruited.
connection.
Are you okay?
I was thinking about Team Daughtry.
Of the 3 on that end sounded really good.
Did that sound good to you,
So
Tim?
I have these 3 on the strategic planning
Right,
team,
and we'll
and
all-
these 3 on the committee team,
Okay.
and you leading the days.
Sure.
Okay, we're good.
Got it.
Thank y'all so much, I
But
appreciate
we'll
it.
get back with you on the day for
Okay.
January. Thank you.
Sounds good, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Parker. Next, Dr. Jones, the accountability ratings report.
Okay, good evening, Board President, Mr. Newcomb, board members, Dr. Chadwell. I'm going to review the 2018-19 district and campus accountability report that we get from the state. We're going to begin with an overview of the district. increased our performance by 3 points for this accountability school year. And the first area we're going to cover is student achievement. That's Domain 1. We're going to start at the district level. Domain 1 is student achievement, and this evaluates STAR performance across all subjects for all students on both the regular STAR and also on the STAR alternate test. For district and high schools, we look at college and career and military readiness, and this indicator is for any graduate, regardless of which cohort they're in. And then the graduation rate that we look at is done by cohorts for the district as well as for the individual high school campuses. The second domain that we're looking at, and once again, you can see the grade there, so I'm not going to read those to you. We're looking at academic growth or relative performance. And when we're looking at student progress, we're looking to see that the students have made progress 1 year or that they were on track. And that means they gained some knowledge when you're looking at scale scores, when you're comparing them from 1 year to the next, as measured by STAR results. And then if you're looking at student achievement, this is all grades and all subjects for that campus. And you're looking to see, to compare these students with, or campuses, excuse me, or districts with campuses and districts that are comparable to them with the socioeconomic levels, okay? And so what you do is you take the score that is higher, and in this case, you can see relative performance when we're looking at districts that are similar to us. That is the area we are higher in. The next area is closing the gap. And this one is a little bit more complex. This includes the domain that the state accountability and the federal accountability are combined together. It's part of the ESSA, Every Child Succeeds Act, which uses disaggregated data to demonstrate the differential among the racial, ethnic groups, the socioeconomic background, special education, ELs, our continuers and our non-continuers, continuously enrolled students. These different groups have different targets, and that's real important because when we're looking at the campuses, after a while, you're going to see that we deviate an enormous amount. But a student that's in the socioeconomic group doesn't have to perform as high as a student that's in the Asian group. So when we start looking at this data, every group has a different component that they're measured on, okay? And this was approved by the U.S. Department of Education. TEA submitted it based on different performances that they had access to, and that's how these areas are looked at. We also look at the graduation rate. This rate is different because we're looking at the federal graduation rate, which is 90%, or if we were higher than 90% at the high schools, they have to improve by 10% from last year, okay? Now remember, graduation rates are done not on this past year our graduates were in, but on the prior year because they don't have all of that data in yet at the state level. When we're looking at special education, we're looking at special education also for those students who are out of the program for 3 years. And continuous, we're looking at if they're, we're looking that they were in our district for 3 years. And if not, then they're considered non-continuous students. They didn't have to be on the same campus, they had to be within the district. The targets, as I said, were approved by the U.S. Department of Education. When we look at English language proficiency, what we're looking there is, once again, it was a target set by TEA. Our target is 36. And what you're going to see as you're going through our district and our campuses either have 100%, they either met that target, or 0 because they did not meet that target. And remember, it's just for one sub-pop, there are one group. And this is how our rating is determined for that. And then we also have college, career, and military ready. And once again, this is all of our students who graduate, okay, from that year, as well as any 12th grader who did not graduate. They're included in that group. These are our high school scores, and as you can see, our high school scores, all of our comprehensive high schools performed very well. They're all there together. You can see their growth was 3 to 4 points each. And when you're looking at Domain 1, student achievement, once again, 40% of it is performance, 40% is college, career, military readiness, and then 20% is the graduation rate. Remembering that this graduation rate is by the cohort that is higher, the 4 years, 5 years, or 6 years there, okay? And once again, this is the academic growth or relative performance, and you can see that we perform better as a whole at all of our 3 high schools when we're looking at relative performance than student progress measure. And Watson, because there are very few campuses that are similar to that with socioeconomic across the state, that they don't have that option. We can only choose the academic growth indicator for them. When we're looking at the high schools for closing the gap, once again, grade level performance. And remember also, when we're looking at closing the gap for that grade level performance, we're looking at the MEET standard or higher. The feds did not approve approaches, so we had to go to the next higher level. So those standards are a lot higher when we're looking at the closing the gap area. The graduation rate counts for 10%. Our ELs, as you see, our high schools have greater difficulty. And what that is, the language proficiency, the students have to grow 1 year or one level, from beginning to intermediate, intermediate to advanced, or advanced to advanced high, or stay at advanced high on TELPAS. And we're looking at last year's TELPAS compared to this year's TELPAS to see if the students have made that growth.
So if you're always gonna have a 0 there, you would never.
Well, no, they're looking at each group. I mean, they're looking at the group. If the students, that means they didn't meet 36, that component of number 36 that the state set as the standard. They can change that next year if their TELPAS scores increase, and that's what we work on with our ESL bilingual department to get those students there higher. When you see the elementaries, it's kind of interesting. The elementary schools, if we can get them to exit the program as opposed to stay, keep our ELLs, as we call long-term or lifers, in the program, then it's very difficult to see that growth at the high school level. It's not, we're
Is
not
that
working
36
on.
a known number, or is it always gonna be?
It's a
moving
standard
target?
that the state set.
Will it move? Is it always gonna be a moving?
I don't know that the state, well, no, it'll stay for 5 years. This is the second year of the 5 years, yes.
But with it being binary, if you miss it, you automatically have a B.
Right,
Yes,
and they kind of know where they are. All of the schools have that data available to them.
15 points.
There's nothing you can do.
Now, if you saw the district overall, we had 100%, so the district did meet that standard. Here are our middle schools. 2 of our schools saw growth from their scores from last year. Once again, our student achievement, and 3 of our schools stay together, and the other 2 are there almost at the B level. And then here at the middle school level, the school progress, once again, you can see that our schools are higher on the relative performance, so that is the grade that is used to use that school progress domain for them. And then closing the gaps, you see Highland met the standard for the English language proficiency, and the other 4 campuses did not. But once again, you can see where their grade level performance is. That was at the MEET standard. And once again, these are not percentage of students who got the MEET standard. You're looking at so many different groups. For instance, you're looking at the math and the reading. There are a potential for that indicator, 14 areas that they can be get a yes or no. They met the standard or they did not. For instance, if I'm doing 10 of those standards, and that's what I'm based on, and I only meet 5 of those standards, my score for that performance would be a 50. And that's what it's based on,
So
okay?
that percentage is how many of the 14 that each campus met when I look at?
Right, on that criteria, absolutely. These
And
are.
the criteria is different for each subpopulation.
And for each subject area also,
Yes.
math and reading. For instance, our Asian population is expected to perform at 74%, the white population 60%, and then, when you go down to Hispanic I think it was 37%. So everybody has a different standard, which unfortunately, you know, doesn't look real well for us. I mean, you know, you would think that we all want to be at a certain level, and why does one group have to perform much higher than the other? But
Why is the standard lower for others?
good question. It's the state submitted that to the U.S. Department of Education. They had to approve it because that's that federal part of the program that ESSA requires.
So it's not per district, it's all across the line.
Exactly, everyone is different, and it's, the district has a different one, the campuses, well, the percentage, the numbers are the same for everybody at the district or the campus level, but it's the same for all across the state, that we all have to perform at a different level. And that's real hard to measure too, when you're telling campuses, you know, how do you increase, you know, a certain sub-pop without hurting someone's feelings, basically. But anyway, here are our elementary schools. They didn't fare quite as well. We had 5 campuses that improved their performance. Saginaw Elementary stayed the same, and we have a little bit of work to do in some of those areas.
Do we know anything about, I was surprised, the double digit would surprise me. Northbrook, do we know, have we looked into any root cause there?
We have.
We have, and part had to do with the group of students that were being tested and their mobility. We have broken our elementary groups into triads, Lisa? I'm going to get this wrong. Quads that 2 years ago we did a very intentional focus group with the PEG campuses, if y'all will remember, where we are implementing that for every campus to have that intense support, help, direction, and looking at the data constantly. I think we slacked up a little bit in some of our campuses, and so now we've got Lisa's monitoring that process with Karen Miller, and every campus in the district will be doing that at this level.
And then we have student achievement here, and once again, you see our scores. And a while ago, and I didn't mention on the slide before, if you see Hafley Development Center on there, by law, we're required to pair it with another school. And I think since Liz has been here, we have paired it with Greenfield Elementary, and we continue to pair it because we have to have an accountability indicator for them. And this is the only place, the overall grade is the only place that you're gonna see that they have a score, actually, okay? And they have the score that Greenfield Elementary has. And so once again, here is the student achievement, and you can see our grades are B's and C's, and we did have one school that fell a little bit below that in their student achievement. Student progress, once again, as you're looking there, we had, remember the school gets to select, or not select, but the state selects the area that's the highest, academic growth or relative performance. And we do have a few schools that we, because of their grades here, will be, we are working with them more diligently. And then for the elementary schools, closing the gap, once again, when you look at the or the English language proficiency, you can see that they all got 100, which means they met that target of 36. Not applicable means they did not have 25 students in that group. If you don't have 25 students, then that you can't get rated on that, okay? And that's the same thing when you're looking at those grade level performances and all of those other areas. Some schools may have 14 areas that they're rated on, some may only have 7. It depends on which subgroups they have, or groups actually, I should say. Then here's our distinction list. And as you know, we look at how well our campuses perform there. We have several. And this is where they are given a list of 40 schools, a comparative group they look at, and they're comparative. They're in the top quartile, and the high schools have to get 33% of their indicators. High schools, it's a little more difficult because we're looking at SAT, ACT, achievement and performance, as well as dual credit and AP for performance. And for the elementary and middle school, we look at their performance on the STAR as well as their attendance rate. And high schools also have graduation rate included there. But as you can see, about 4 or 5 of our schools did very, very well. We had 32 total for the district. That's one less than last year. And then school improvement. This is an area that we are required to work on a plan for these schools that need targeted support. And this all comes from closing the gap or a domain that had a D in it as far as the domain average. And so remember, each student group is how this was done because they had that differentiated number at the top that they had to achieve. So the campuses are including their growth or their targets and goals on how they're going to improve in their campus plans. And Ed Services is providing any additional needed support that they need. Some need a lot more support in math, some need it in English and whatever. And we use compensatory funds to help them, as well as our 12 title schools can use their federal money to help in some of those areas. Questions?
I'm glad they made it real simple so we could all understand. Appreciate you.
If you want to
going
do
through
it more in depth, Tricia has a presentation we'll be happy to share with
I
you.
sent that to you.
Oh.
They have it.
Yeah.
You can see that excitement.
Well, thank you, Dr. Jones, for going over that with us. Really, I appreciate that, and the way you broke it down was helpful. Thank you. Next is the Copper Creek Elementary Staffing Report. Dr. Dawkins.
Yes. Good evening again. I'm bringing to you, we are preparing for staffing for Copper Creek Elementary School. And so what we are requesting tonight is consideration of the initial professional, paraprofessional, and auxiliary positions that we have. So these are the salaries that would be included in this year's budget. That's why I'm bringing them to you now. So additional days. So if you'll take a look, we've got the principal, which we would bring on probably, we're estimating approximately January, 1st of the year. The principal's secretary. The custodians would not be brought on as early, obviously, because there's not a building. However, we want them in place and to learn the role so that in preparation for the summer, they would be ready to go and leading a cleaning team there. So I will be bringing this back next month for action. So if you have any questions.
Questions? Thank you. We already heard report H along with the action items. That brings us to the school calendar approval time. Dr. Barnes.
Thank you very much. Wanted to bring forward the approval timeline. This has not changed. In the last 2 years, we will continue our focus of meeting with DPAC and also bringing forth a calendar advisory committee to allow any member that so chooses to be a part of that. Our goal with designing the calendar this coming year, of course, is to maximize our instructional time as much as possible. We also have the very best teachers, I believe, in the world here, and so we need to allow them to do their job. So the best thing for that to happen is for them to be in the classrooms. So this year, we're also going to take advantage of some opportunities, so hopefully of some half-day spread throughout the year this time, where our teachers would then be able to participate in their PLCs and their campus learning communities for that aspect. As you can see, there was a conversation last year that I brought forward to the board about semester exams and ending the semester before Christmas. There are two pieces of feedback that we tend to get every single year. And of course, the first one is, can we end semester prior to Christmas? And then of course, the second one is, when we have our semester exams, we tend to have to come back from Christmas and then review. And that, in turn, takes away 10 days of instructional time. So taking a look at that, this year we decided to think a little bit differently, think outside of the box. And what we started looking at was actually
If we did end the semester prior to our Christmas break, what we found were 16 major events that would take place right before then. That would impact our fine arts, our athletics, many of our students that are involved in so much right before then, and that would cause a very high level of stress. So therefore, we came back and we started asking, then what is the purpose of semester exams in the fall? Many of our courses have gone year-long. We have very few just semester-long courses left. So again, starting to take a look at our spring and how much we also offer with our assessments. So we started taking a look and realized you can see the amount of times that we assess our students in the spring. And when we started really analyzing this piece, we then asked ourselves 3 questions. What do the fall semester exams add to the instruction of our students? If we remove the fall semester exam, would it negatively affect our student learning? And the third piece too was if we remove the fall semester exams, would we need to make any changes to the high school exemption currently in place? So what we have done is we have gone back to our campuses and we have asked for our principals to get feedback from current staff, also from parent focus groups, just to kind of see where we stand with that. And so that is going to be an analysis that we will be taking place through our calendar process.
Just a comment there. This is really interesting in our conversation because we're kind of, every year about this time, we start talking about semester, or start talking about school calendars, and it's that time of the year, and then we started talking about semester exams, and then the question just came up, why do we have fall exams? I mean, nobody says we have to have a fall exam, and there was a time when all those were put in which you didn't have DCAs, district curriculum assessments, you didn't have benchmarks, you didn't have the number of STAR exams. We have kids tested all the time, and we've been, in fact, we have a group that Linda has helped to lead in her staff to actually see which exams could we take off to take burdens off, not just students, but really instructional time, particularly, and it depends on every elementary. Like, for example, elementary have a whole series of battery of tests you don't see reported because they have to do with creating intervention groups for kids that may be behind in certain areas. And so when we really started thinking about it, we realized that, and I know as a teacher, the fall exam, I could have predicted with about 95% accuracy what people's scores would be, because nearly every test is cumulative to some degree. You build on prior content. And in fact, our DCAs are like that. And that's why our DCAs have such a high correlation. So when we get into our benchmarks and preparing for our EOC exams, particularly at the high school level. So and with that, we said we just need to think about that and look at it, because the amount of time that we get back, not just the days of implementing the test, but the amount of days of review is significant. So this is something that we are entertaining, and we're bringing it to you. Again, it's out of the box. I don't know of anybody that does this. But once again, I don't know anybody that says, my goodness, we just don't test enough. You know, we need to test more. And the reality is most of our exams are cumulative, and so that preparation for college is really built into the experience of being a high school student. So
I would think that would be the most, if there was
Yes.
argument that, well, we're trying to prepare them for college or for future things that are cumulative exams over knowledge that learned over and since it's fall and spring, that's the way colleges break over that period of time.
Right.
But I'm sure not, you know, I'm sure the students would love it. Do we, when we do have the exams, is it still where they don't have to go, and so we've got, is that happen in the fall or only the spring?
Just the spring.
Just the spring.
And districts do it different. Districts I've been a part of prior to this had fall and spring semester exemptions. We just have fall.
Spring. We just have spring.
Pardon me, thank you, all spring. In actuality, the turnaround for exams is so quick. I'll just use myself as a teacher. On regular exams, and I taught social studies, I had essay portions on all my exams, short answer. I couldn't do that on a semester exam. You have to turn it around. So it's virtually always multiple choice, and it's something that you can quickly assess and get back. And in terms of academic, we see some even the strong academic students start to drop in some of those areas, not because they just don't have retention of knowledge, it's because you have to kind of, you have to do a lot of preparations all at one time for this exam, and quite often we don't see a huge bump in anybody's grade because they're taking it. So.
But I do think kids, that the exemption policy does encourage kids to get their grades up and to keep their attendance up. I
It
think,
does.
I mean,
And that's why we don't plan on doing that for the spring. We're talking about just fall. Spring, we would retain.
right, but you'd still keep the exemption piece if you only move to a spring.
Correct, we'd leave the exemption. In fact, we talked about, would we carry attendance all year? And I would not recommend that we necessarily do that. We would just handle the spring and do-
Well, it seems like it comes up every year, so
Every
I encourage
year.
y'all to find, if this is a good solution. And,
Okay, thank you.
If the committee's for it and the teachers also, your groups, your focus groups, it does seem to come up every year, so.
It does,
Either
and
end
it's-
it in December, which, figure out a way to do that. I know there's a lot of activity, but there's a lot of activities any time of the year. Or, if you have another suggestion.
There is, and another thing that we are looking at, if we keep the semester ending exactly where it is now, we have equal weight between both semesters. So that's the equal number of days. Even though the spring seems like it's longer, there's so much more testing in the spring that it actually equals out. If we move it prior to Christmas break, in all reality, we would be adjusting quite a bit of curriculum as well. So it's, when I talk to individuals, it's that explanation of moving a semester sounds very, very simple. It actually is not. It's a very tedious process from the curriculum perspective, because then we are moving up 2 weeks worth of instruction.
you
And we
have to
still have
assess,
a
right.
handful of classes that are like economics and government that are discrete semester classes.
Yes,
There's less
and
than
those would
10.
still have a final exam at the end of that semester.
Yes.
So semester-long classes, what we're looking at would still, again, have that final exam. It would just be at the semester, or
That's
the-
a good point.
the end
Part
the
of this
semester.
would not necessarily be relevant for psychology, sociology, government,
Economic
economics.
English,
So-
Or you could just adjust the calendar where the days either reduce the Thanksgiving break like it used to be to 2 days. I was waiting for that, Art. Or the Christmas break, let it go,
The mob-
let Christmas go a
The
week
mob
over.
says they don't like that.
Christmas go a
Mr.
week
Newcomb, I'd still
longer.
like to be employed and live in this community. I just moved
They
here.
never will let me do the calendar, Dr. Barnes. I've wanted to do it ever since I've got on you.
So far, the
No,
few
you
people we've
don't.
talked to has been very positive.
I've done it.
I don't want to put Mr. Behringer too much on the spot, but I don't believe we've really run into people who says, my goodness.
Let's test them more.
We need to test more.
It would be really interesting, I know
But
you said you don't know anybody that does it, but if you could reach it even broader in the state and see if you could find at least an example school that has done this and didn't
Sure.
find really an impact or did, whatever the benchmark might be.
And we
I suspect you
may
find
want to
didn't.
expand the group to include some private schools as well, to see if that's done commonly. Once we started thinking about it, it's not really, it's losing 2 weeks of
It's
instruction.
10 days of instruction is consistently the feedback we're getting from teachers, that we're not being able to move forward with our instruction. We're actually losing that 2 weeks of time.
Now, in reality, there'll probably be a 6 weeks exam that would be cumulative, which
Oh,
would be the
yes,
type of
with-
exam, there'll be an exam in that
They
third
always
6
have
weeks,
that.
so.
But the biggest thing is that you said, let's think outside the box. And, and having those, I think we're gonna really come up with a great solution.
Better than mine?
Yes. And would you please include him on your committee?
Mr.
Oh.
Newcomb, you
Yes,
are
I
now
think- I
on
think you just
my
volunteered
calendar committee, so there you go.
Oh, great. Thank you, Dr. Barnes. And you're up again with the student transfer policy update.
I am. Another piece that we are looking at is reviewing our current practices and policies concerning student transfers. This committee is actually twofold. Feel very strongly that our focus needs to remain with providing a supportive a system of choice for our community members. But we also want to align our practices to ensure excellence for all students and equity among all of our programs within our campuses. Our purpose is also to review several different pieces towards that. That can also include class sizes, campus staffing, extracurricular participation, and extracurricular competition. So our committee is meeting currently. We're working very diligently with researching all aspects of this. So then at that point, we would recommend any changes to the administration and the board that we determine appropriate for the district. You will see the many different individuals that are part of this committee. We're extremely blessed to have very knowledgeable individuals and also individuals that are able to, again, think outside of the box, but also think quite clearly of all the different outliers of what our decisions can entail.
So we have made sure that we have invited individuals to be a part of this, and also invite individuals to participate in meetings that they may not be on the committee as a whole, but they have strong knowledge in UIL, or they have very strong information concerning fine arts or so forth. So we're definitely utilizing our individuals with great knowledge in different areas that would affect these policies. What you're seeing is our discussion topics that we've had so far. Is again, we're looking at our current transfer data. We are mainly focusing in on athletics and fine arts and the effect of that. We are also very strongly looking in the effects of our staffing and our class sizes with our current practices and policies. We have also researched many of our close districts, our close neighbors, but also our outlying districts as well, and have been able to request and receive their transfer policies, most importantly, also their practices and what they may have or have not written down. What we're also looking into, and this is where those outliers come into play, is we're also looking into issues to consider concerning employees' children, legal policies with transfers from the state. What does the state require us to do? What leeway do we have with that? Transfer application deadlines and so forth. We are also looking at different options. What are different options concerning a transfer policy and what that would look like and so forth. And then, of course, we're working diligently on recommending changes to our current policies and practices. So at this point in time, if you have any questions or feedback.
Are we trying to get this implemented for the next school year? Is that the goal?
2020, 2021, yes, sir.
So the timeline's okay for, I don't remember when our.
Yes, sir.
The
To follow-
timeline.
The timeline is, go ahead.
The timeline is our goal is to bring forth the recommendations for policies in October for hopeful approval in November.
We do acknowledge the fact that we could bring information back in October that would then require us to come back in November with more information that would actually push to a December approval. We could go as far as December and turn it around for a January implementation, because really it would be, that whole process starts in January. And Ms. Turrentine is here as well. There's another compliment. We're really talking about this aspect of eligibility for extracurricular, but the entire transfer policy in terms of the procedures and admin regs we're looking at as well. One thing in working that this year, she's acknowledged the fact that, you know, our graciousness of trying to extend that time period in which parents can turn in transfers actually puts us into great difficulty as well, and that occurred this year with staffing. In order to know how many people we know and need to have in what locations. Pushing that up a little bit earlier, we feel like is important, so we're looking at some adjustments in the transfer timelines, but also making allowances for those that may be moving into the district that would have no idea to transfer because they didn't know they were moving in January. You know, so there would be probably another window for those moving in from out of the district. So we're working on that. We've had 1,200 or so transfers, somewhere around there.
That's what I was gonna ask, how many people does it?
Is that about right?
affect?
Okay, so about 1,200 transfers, not all of whom are in high school, which is what's relevant to this
K through 12th
discussion.
grade.
And not all are certainly in extracurricular athletic events, but there are a portion that are. But there are about 1,200 transfers that we have in the district.
So that'd be 1,200 kids that would be waiting on this decision, or would they be grandfathered in?
Well, not necessarily, because some students are moving from one elementary to another in the exact same high school attendance zone. And then some move only in elementary and then move back to their home area. You have all kinds of different iterations. It could be up to 1,200, but it's probably far fewer than that when you consider athletics, because you see the number of kids that play middle school sports, the number of kids that play high school sports goes down. And so it's going to be a number less than that.
So you're only looking at it as it relates to high school?
Only at high school and only in extracurricular and in athletics. So that would be UIL sports plus gymnastics is the areas we're looking at. As we looked at fine arts, we really didn't see the issues that we've discussed previously as we have with athletics, and we're also not looking at UIL academics.
But you'd also maintain a grandfather clause like we have in the past. We wouldn't ask
For those
somebody
that
to
are
leave,
current.
if somebody's already
For
been
the-
granted a
Correct.
transfer to a high school, we wouldn't ask them to
Yes,
change.
ma'am. For those that are current, however, we are not recommending a sibling rule, meaning that for those entering this next year, regardless if they have siblings, that are in a different high school that we would implement it. Otherwise, the implementation timeline could be as long as a senior is from a kindergartner. So we would need to move that.
So right now, the focus, again, 9th through 12th grade would be where they are currently.
And we do have an opportunity here. This really presentation was to tell you what we're working on. There's been a lot of work from this committee, as Dr. Barnes has mentioned. We'd be very open to hear your input and thoughts and things that you want us to consider, or information you'd like us to gather in preparation for bringing something back to you. So we're all ears.
Well, anybody have anything else? I want it to be simple as you could make it. I mean, the UIL already has a rule. If we can't follow that, you'll have to tell me why. It's pretty straightforward. You either live there or you don't, so that's my input.
I'd like to make a comment about it. As we look at this, and I know y'all will keep all this in mind as we're looking at the high school attendance zone participation rules, but and as far as the UIL, they do have a procedure in place, but they allow the school districts to implement something even more stringent than what the UIL asks for. And there's a form you have to fill out when you're going to a new school. It's called a PAPF, a Previous Athletic Participation Form. And in that form, question 6 asks you, are you transferring for athletic purposes? And when you get out beside that, it doesn't say 1% in parentheses, are you transferring for 1% or 100%? It just asks, are they going for athletic purposes? And if you don't live in that attendance zone, why are you changing schools? So, what we run into is that allows kids to circumvent the UIL rules, because most kids go to the new schools at a freshman level, sophomore level, and the UIL 1-year sit-out rule really doesn't apply to them, because you have to sit out 1 year to be eligible for varsity competition. And so I just think to make it fair for all of our schools, I think that's a rule, as we're looking at that, I think that would really help all of our schools more so than allowing kids to transfer. I think you need to live in the attendance zone. So as y'all look at that, I think that would be something that we need to look at.
I think.
Did we say the same thing? I'm just curious. Okay.
And the only other thing I would ask, I think you brought us a more detailed report at the high school level before, if we could have an updated version of that shows how many actual high school transfers.
You want the actual?
Yes, we do.
We have that.
And Brent and Steve completed that report already. The high school and the volleyball and football, it's been completed. So we'll send that to you this week. I'll tell you, the numbers are not that different than they have been before. It's not like there's been an elevation prior, but there are some numbers, and as we know, there's sometimes challenges of key individuals that, they've been in one attendance zone for virtually their entire lives, and the coaches have worked with them, and then they're gone and go to another one. That's a challenge. And the other is, as we've talked about with a lot, is just a perception of that, which is very a negative thing for schools. It has been an ongoing, it's probably, I'd say it's in my top 3 or 5 things that come up as I talk to people around is this issue. And so even though the information may be something a little bit different and not quite as bad as people think, it certainly is the perception out there of the number of transfers that we have. Yeah. And part of that, I think, is that we do have 1,200 transfers. I mean, we do have a lot of kids transferring. And part of that philosophy of allowing transfers, and irrespective of the whole athletics issue and extracurricular, is that we do have an environment where people may want to choose something differently. We're in an environment of choice, whether we would like that or not, and if people would like to choose a different elementary or a different middle school or whatever, we've been open to that and supportive, but that doesn't address the concerns with what we've talked about in extracurricular transfers. So
So doesn't it start in 8th grade? So is the 8th grade thrown into that mix, or when you cover the freshmen and that's?
It's just coming into 9th grade is when you're,
Because they could go to a different middle school.
Correct.
But then when they attend high school, they would have to be in their attendance.
That's correct.
Is the current rule, okay.
that's correct.
Does UIL have the same rule for fine arts? You have to sit out a year. for
No,
fine- so you
they
can
do
stack-
not.
You can stack fine arts, just not athletics.
They've never addressed fine arts, and I think part of it is, as much as there are programs that have specialties in fine arts, it's very unusual for someone to move to, let's say, be first chair or to be the drum major or something like that. It's just not, I think in reality, that's never been a huge issue, like, and people don't move to go to UIL Academic Number Sense or debate. You just don't see that. You do see it in the other areas. So that's, no, it's a good question. It's just,
We should stack.
yeah, it's just not as common practice in those areas. And if there's other thoughts or input, please do share it with me or Dr. Barnes, and we'll, they're working with the committee, and we have a few committee members in here that are working. I know Sean Bell's on that committee and was addressing some of the very things, because when we approached it as, is this an all? We didn't just start with athletics. We started with everything. We looked at UIL academics. We looked at UIL fine arts. We looked at everything. And Mr. Bell was very helpful with letting me know the information that I just shared with you.
We appreciate their work. So mainly, I think it's if you want any reports, as Paige just asked for one, so they could bring those to us or send them to us.
Factor it all in.
Right.
Yeah, good.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
That brings us to our last report of the night, which is to give an update on the TASA-TASB convention, which we just attended. I will start off, and then William, you go second.
And we're close.
But, no, it was, I enjoyed the general session that we had on Saturday. I thought the speaker gave a very powerful testimony about where he had started in life. And I wish I could remember the name of the movie.
Freedom Riders.
Thank you, thank
Yeah,
you.
but-
Freedom Riders.
And he was in the class of the teacher, Aaron Brule.
The first year.
First year, and then they wrote their life story, and then.
Yes, yeah, it was very powerful
Very
testimony.
powerful.
And so I haven't seen Freedom Riders, some of y'all may have out in the audience, but it's on my list of movies to see now for sure. So I enjoyed that. And then, of course, the other sessions that I went to, one of them was an update on the law. So we got an update on what the law, what the policy changes would have to be, which I'm sure we'll get an update from TASB coming out anytime now for our board's books. And then I went to hear Robert Kaplan, the chair of the Federal Reserve Bank in Dallas, and he gave some good information for us moving forward to sell bonds, that the bond rate was going to remain low. And Mr. Shealy was also in that presentation, and we visited a little bit afterwards. And were you in the present? Yeah, was there also. So we got to hear some good information, I thought, that was positive for us moving forward selling bonds. And whether to, really he asked a question in the meeting about whether we should wait or not. And he said, well, why would you? Because you're not going to look back 5 years from now and go, man, I wish we'd have waited and sold those bonds at 3 basis points less. You're more likely to look back and go, why didn't we sell those bonds in 2019 and 20 when the interest rate was low? So I thought that was some good information straight from the horse's mouth, so to speak. So that was good. William?
My first one, it was good. Probably two classes or seminars that I enjoyed the most or learned the most. One was about student achievement, how to evaluate student achievement. Not being an educator, a lot of this is new to me. So many numbers and standardized tests, STAR testing and everything, and what grades you test each thing. Don't ask me right now for the exact specifics, but there's a lot of information. It was good as far as, because they're so important, evaluating. And then also I had a class on student rights, First Amendment rights, gender rights, just all the very complicated things. Attorneys were leading these classes, and every time they ended one, it said, and the water's still muddy. So everything's as clear as mud, but it's just complicated, but it's something that we deal with and continue to deal with even more. So I learned a lot about all those things.
Tim?
Well, the first, a couple of them were pretty interesting, I guess, if you can classify these as interesting, but I'm going to throw a couple out. One was where they had the $11.6 billion that the school districts got through the state legislature to increase your monies. So it was interesting to hear everybody was getting ripped on the 11.6 billion. You know, we're losing money on the fast growth school stuff. Other people are losing it other places. So that was interesting. The guy didn't really have an explanation on all that. Listened to the UIL update, explained, you know, this is realignment year, so they kind of went through everything again, and so that's always kind of interesting to see how the school districts fall. So basically, you know, they take the top 250 highest schools, they're 6A, the next 250 or 5A. So you never really know where the number cutoff is till the numbers come in, and they just start counting down to 250, and then that's going to be the cutoff number. So I thought, you know, pretty interesting stuff. So.
Did you believe them?
The part that you wonder if they believe, they tell you that they just put the numbers on a sheet of paper, that there's no school names, there's no identifiers.
District numbers.
No. There's nothing there. So the top school is 6,600 kids, Allen, in high school. You know who that is. So it goes 6,600 all the way down, and then you just count. So you don't know who anybody is technically. That's what they say. But anyway.
And then they put your districts together by, they run some kind of computer program on the mileage, and they try to put the districts together that has the lowest total mileage.
Yeah, and it's all computer driven.
They don't do it, yeah.
They used to put pins on a map and stretch rubber bands.
Oh, wow.
Technically, I mean, that's the way, so they get the districts that way, but now it's all driven by numbers in the computer. But it was interesting for those that like that stuff, so.
Anna?
The biggest thing I learned was how to ride escalators without seeing my feet. I made it on every one of them.
You had very nice bodyguards.
I had great
Bodyguards.
Paige and I attended a hearing on the Open Meetings Act and oral presentations. And we took it as don't interrupt for the 3 minutes if you can possibly keep from doing it, and it will save you 3 years of litigation. We also attended a transgender, transsexual presentation, and we've got splits and circuits, and we're waiting for a Supreme Court decision, so we'll be watching for that. And then I want to give a shout out to Marilyn, who attended the full delegate assembly voluntarily.
all want to give you a shout out for that.
Yeah.
And her alternate, who shall remain nameless, skipped out.
With my encouragement.
William didn't stay for the.
Don't throw him in the Hey, if we had
Steve,
A&M
you
Auburn,
have not been in that conversation.
maybe A&M would have played better. I should have gone to stinking assembly.
Paige?
As always, the general session speakers were very inspirational. I really enjoyed both general sessions, and the school performances were excellent, as they always are, so those were fun. I think the best session I attended was one where two of our architects actually presented. BLK and Huckabee are part of a joint task force to talk about school safety and really put best practices out there for all architects to kind of share among the school districts, so even outlying school districts can have the benefit of the best things that will keep our schools safe. So I thought that was really great to see architects and builders working together on a cross-functional committee to really make sure our schools are safe. So that was my favorite.
I think Liz and I want big concrete balls.
Yes.
In
Like
all
Target,
the
in front of all
places
the
where
schools.
a car could drive in.
That is one of the things that they did recommend, and I love that this coalition of architects said we all came together because we were all thinking the same way, and safety for our schools is key. And they've gone and they've spoken to the legislature, and they said we will continue to do that because we find that that's most important, that we stand united in that. So I was real appreciative of that. But one of our keynote speakers on Friday was Kevin Carroll, who worked for Nike. And it all starts with the big red ball. So I think, Dr. Chadwell, you should probably make a large purchase and deliver those to all of our campuses so they can play and have a good time.
We did reach out to his speakers bureau because I thought that was really I thought that was in pretty interesting alignment with our link work and everything. And so Megan and I have a conversation here in a couple of days about that.
Great minds. Thank you.
But we didn't plan on buying red balls yet, so, but we will.
I think that would be a lot cheaper.
Yeah, probably so. Probably so.
I'm gonna echo mostly of what everybody else said. The general sessions were
great
really,
going last,
really,
isn't
really
it?
great. It is. The one thing that the non-student issues, those were quite interesting.
That was a good.
Was mental health and safety and immigration and a whole cadre of list. Then I got to hear Commissioner Mike Morath, which was quite interesting. And I had never heard him speak in public, in person. So that was, I'm just going to say that was interesting. Since this is being recorded. So that was interesting. And then I agree about the architects. I thought that was really, really good. And then I also went to a session about how to transform learning through space. And it was another architect that had just a lot of different pictures of buildings and how they design their spaces, and it was interesting to look at and see. And they said that Marine Creek would be on there on the next year. Next year. Because architects of change or something like that.
Dr. Shevell, it was a TASA conference also. You don't normally give you the opportunity to tell us.
I'm not on the agenda, but I'll be happy to talk if you would like.
Sure, if you have anything you would like to add.
No, it was good, really, again, echoing a lot of the ones y'all talked about. The legal updates were very good. Obviously, one thing that I think that occurred is that some people speak with great confidence about what the law says when really they don't know yet. A lot of things are still being clarified and coming out. I thought both speakers on Friday and Saturday were outstanding and really made you think about things, and I was really, really impressed with that. So I thought it was a very good conference, and I thought they were a lot more careful with the sessions they provided to make sure that that they would all have that people would walk out with something that they could take back to their districts. So I thought it was good.
And it does say TASA, TASB convention.
Oh.
It doesn't say.
Sorry about that.
So you were on the agenda, so.
I apologize.
That's all
Mr.
right.
President.
Oh, and Steve, I'll say,
Yes.
I was talking to Linda and Dana, and we had gone through the exhibits, and there were a lot of things at the exhibit hall. We do that, and we do that, and we already do that, which was a compliment to the district and to all of our people.
Well, you walk through that exhibit hall and, now, I can tell you 20 years ago, you walked through there, nobody would say anything, but now they say you come out in Saginaw.
Exactly.
Now we got 20,000 students and more of them go, oh, yeah, Mr. Newcomb.
Well, and they
Come
had
over
the
here, let me
big-
talk to you for a second.
We had the big public relations table, and I walked by and it had all of our swag on it. I was so impressed, so thank you, Megan,
Yes.
for throwing our name out there also.
It's my job.
She also presented, she was
I
my
know.
favorite.
Did very well. This is great. It was fantastic.
Because she's presented at 7:30 in the morning.
Yes.
And we were there.
We're very proud of y'all for being there.
I had a tall coffee. We weren't there. I noticed, but it's okay.
We missed it somehow.
In spirit. Okay, anything else? Sorry, didn't mean to.
No,
8 brings us to item 8, which is routine monthly reports. Are there any questions on those? Hearing none. Next is to review the 19 board planning calendar. Dr. Chadwell.
On the October 28th meeting, a couple of items I'll bring up. We have our annual delinquent tax collection report. Of course, we'll have construction updates, some more discussion on Copper Creek Elementary Attendance Zone, discussion on the Gold Card program. Of course, we have our Gold Card luncheon come up. We also have a report on new courses for high schools and middle schools, 1920, AP results and dual credit report. The interlocal agreements, I'll just, Dr. Baker's still in here. Have we received do you think they'll be in October or probably November?
Fingers crossed. We've got Fort Worth, but we need to look at Saginaw.
Got it.
Make sure that they're.
I understand. There's always a delay with this, and it's possible this could be delayed to November, but we still function. It doesn't change any of our current work at all. We just run off the old contract for now. We also have the conduct a public hearing for the first rating, and we have not heard back yet from Austin on that and our appeal on that. We also have an appointment of the 1920 Board Naming Committee, so if there's interest in that area. And the rest of the items are listed there. If you have any questions on any, feel free to let me know. I do notice that it has the approval of the interlocal agreements for Saginaw and Fort Worth, which is because it shouldn't be there. It should, we're gonna have to, the consent and the report won't be in the same meeting
Okay.
like it is. So
All right.
we'll move that.
And then the report on the delinquent tax collection.
It should be on schedule.
Give us an opportunity to visit.
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
I'm sure we will. Item 10 is consent agenda for approval. Chair will entertain a motion for approval. Liz?
I'll say, or second, whatever.
Liz makes the motion. Donna, did you
I'll
second
second
that?
it.
Thank you, Donna. Any questions? Hearing none. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? And there are none. Motion carries 7-0. I don't really have any particular announcements since we've already visited. So Dr. Chadwell, do you have anything else to add?
Oh, yes, sir. Just the calendar. We have a couple of big events coming up. We have September 26th. We have the Taste of Northwest Expo at the Saginaw Recreation Center, and I'm going to put Megan on the spot for just a moment. Is there anything you'd like to share on that? Because I know we have a lot of people that are going to be there.
Yes, we have the same spread of tables that we normally do. Our culinary students will be there, and they're cooking up something yummy for us. So you want to make sure you stop by and cast your vote for them if you like what they have to share, and I know that you will. We also have our Education Foundation. We partnered with them, and they're going to be promoting the upcoming golf tournament with a hole-in-one competition. We'll have all sorts of EMS ISD swag and information to share with the community, plus we have fine arts performances on stage from all three of our high schools.
Thank you. October the 4th, we have the Saginaw Gymnastics Ring Ceremony. That'll be during the halftime of the football game. We also have the Gold Card Luncheon. We have a great problem. We have so many RSVPs, we're actually restricting the ISD people involved. Of course, not you, though. Okay, you're welcome to be there, but we are bringing down the numbers a little bit because we have so many people. We'll have the glass open. It'll be a great event. Students performing as they come in. Be great. We also have the Rick Canterbury naming event at Saginaw High School on October the 16th. That's a Wednesday. That is right before their homecoming evening, and that's going to be a really nice evening. You do see in the packet October 17th for the special board meeting. That is now October the 22nd. I did confirm with everybody earlier today that we'll be moving that to the same time, 6 to 9 o'clock in the boardroom, and Lisa Crass will be leading that, and they have a really neat program ahead for that. Other things on there, just want to make sure I get the big ones you may attend. We have the Ed Foundation Golf Tournament on October the 24th. And Allie, she's still in here, isn't she? Yes. So we're all good there, right? It's going to be fun. If you want to play and you're not signed up, please talk to her. That'll be a really wonderful day. You also see our homecoming events. And that's it, Mr. President.
All right, thank you. I don't know if I will go back just to make sure everybody saw their folder, some of the things that Dr. Parker already went over with us, but there's also an invitation and a reminder about the Gold Card Luncheon in there also. Seeing that there's no further business to come before this board, the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn. Second.
Motion by Donna, second by Marilyn.